Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Tower of Babel podcast. As always, I'm Julian Mush. I'm joined by Jeremy Kozier
Hello.
and not Daniel D'Souza. He is MIA today, but that's okay. We have lots to cover, and we just don't have time for lollygaggers. We got to get going. There's so much to talk about. We've got Netflix signing deals. We've got a couple of them, so we'll talk about that. We've got Warner Brothers canceling some more DC movies, not good news, so we'll talk about that for sure as well. And there's a Game of Thrones anniversary, the Iron Anniversary, as it's known. So we'll discuss a little bit of that as well, plus a lot more. But before we do, I would remind you to check out our social media, Tower of Babel, at Tower Babelcast on Twitter and at Tower Babelcast on Facebook as well. And head over to our website, towerbabel.ca /live to catch us live. As we record this live, every time we do a new show, we're doing it live, and we do that on YouTube, on whatever it's called, on Twitter now, the Twitter Live, I guess, and Twitch. So you can catch us out on all those places at Tower Babelcast, basically on all of them. So before we even get into the trailer stuff, I will talk about quickly our Patreon, patreon.com/Tower Babelcast. We do a monthly film club. We are doing, Jeremy, what are we doing this month? It's a Armageddon, right?
Armageddon, right?
Yeah. It's funny, Jeremy. I saw a funny tweet like the day after we said, hey, we're going to do Armageddon. And it was a clip from the audio commentary of Ben Affleck talking about that movie. And there's this scene where they're talking about how, no, you can't send astronauts up there because they don't know how to mine stuff. And Ben Affleck is like, he's cracking up because he's like, what do you mean? You're going to tell me that it's easier to send up train them to be astronauts than it is for us to train astronauts to be miners? This makes no fucking sense. It's really fun. Right. So I'm going to try to get in a audio commentary into that before maybe we watch it, because it seems like there's some good gold to be mined there. But yeah, we'll be discussing that later this month. Last month, we did Mission to Mars. So check that out on Patreon. It's there now. All right, let's get into this. Jeremy, the first question, though, are you going to bring that same energy you had to the Game of Thrones content you brought last episode? And if so, I don't know if I'm ready.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, not having Daniel here kind of...
It hurts.
I think it's bringing it down a little bit. But
yeah.
Like you say, he's missing an action, so I'm curious what that action. I'm curious what that action is.
We are all curious. I encourage you as Tower Babel fans to message him on Discord and find out what he's doing. I'm sure he'd really appreciate that. We're all worried about him. That's all. Okay, let's get into this. There's a couple trailers, of more than a few, that I'd like to just quickly touch on before we kind of get into the meat of the episode. One of them being this Jupiter's Legacy trailer, which is this kind of like superhero adaptation coming to Netflix on May 7th. Now, for my money, not excited for this. I feel like I'm reaching the peak Justice League analog shows. I don't need another Boys. I don't need another Invincible. I don't need another there's just a million of them. And I just this just seems like
three of them.
Well, it's a lot. Plus Marvel, plus the actual DC stuff. It just seems like a lot. So I don't know, Jeremy. Do you feel the same, or is this something that you're that's gonna it's on your radar?
I mean, I think it's easy to have that thought or that critique or whatever you're having.
So I'm just simple, is what you're saying.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I think because I haven't seen it, but I'm aware of it. I've seen some behind the scenes pictures from the filming of it, and I thought the costumes and all that stuff was in line with the Boys, but a little bit more leaning into the comic aesthetic. So
sure.
It looks like it's not taking itself too seriously, but obviously there's going to be some sort of serious story going on. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I haven't seen the trailer, so
here's the thing, though. It's created and written by Steven S. DeKnight, right?
Oh, cool.
Which
Spartacus,
we have affinity with him because of Spartacus.
I think so.
And he has his
and
legacy.
Daredevil.
Yeah, and the first season, I think, right?
Netflix. Right?
By the way, I've been watching the second season of Jessica Jones, right? Because we were all really excited about these Netflix shows at the time, right? Like we watched all of the first seasons of everything, and then watched Defenders, and we were all disappointed.
Yeah, but to be fair, I bounced
Like
way
hard.
before
Well,
you guys.
yeah, right at
Yeah, like,
Iron Fist.
you
I guess.
guys, yeah, before that,
Mm.
I was out. So you guys watched a bunch of shit, and then you watched the Defenders
Yeah.
So yeah, I bounced for sure.
So the reason I bring it up though is because I've started watching the second season. I really liked the first season of Jessica Jones. Like I think it's like a very good season of television. Like it's like very well done. And this second season feels way cheaper. Like they didn't put nearly as much money into the second season. And there's a third, which I didn't even know. There's a third season of Jessica Jones. And
so you're gonna keep going.
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna give it a shot. And there's actually a third season. There's a third season of Luke Cage too. So I got to try that out because actually we did watch I think season 2 of Luke Cage. I think we all agreed it was too long. There's some cool, interesting characters.
Yeah, and I remember I think they listened and they shortened the runtime, right?
Well, I presume I haven't looked into it enough yet, but like I just feel like you can kind of watch Netflix lose interest in these Marvel characters like in real time while watching these shows. And there's still some good stuff in there. I really like the first episode of season 2, for instance, of Jessica Jones, when it really kind of leans into its like noir aesthetic. But I don't know. I'll come back to you with my final verdict on season 2 when I get there.
What made you decide to watch season 2 of Jessica Jones?
That's a funny question, Jeremy.
Question.
The reason
I think it's a pretty apt question.
Right? No, okay. Well, here's the thing. I finished watching Voyager, right? I was like rewatching Voyager. That was like my like go to bed show, I think I talked about this on the show. I was been rewatching Star Trek Voyager. There's 7 seasons of Star Trek Voyager. And they're all like 22 episodes.
How long did that take you? How many? Like,
months. Absolutely, like maybe 6 months, 8 months, something like that. I was not in a rush.
Every night before you go to bed,
yeah,
you're filled with Voyager, Star Wars thoughts.
Star Trek. Star Trek.
Sorry, yeah. Every night.
Well, at the time, yeah, I was, because here's the thing, and I think I talked about this on the show, but I'll reiterate it here, which is that Star Trek, all of them have, or at least, and especially the ones like Voyager and the stuff that's set at that time, have this like low hum sound that plays underneath the track. It's like the hum of the ship, and it's like the most comforting sound in the world. It's like this white noise that is just very calming and very peaceful. And you don't really need to be that invested. So it's like a perfect like unwind show. You can watch your
okay, but why are you talking about this show in response to why you're watching?
So
because you finished that.
Because I finished that and I needed another show to watch before I went to bed that I didn't really care that much about.
Yeah, but why did you choose Jessica Jones?
Because I saw a trailer for it. It like came up on my I was like browsing through Netflix and I like let it sit and like played the trailer and it played stuff. I was like, I've never seen any of this stuff, because I was like, I've seen Jessica Jones, I don't remember any of this. And then I realized that there was a second and third season, so I was like, okay, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I don't have to invest that much because I'm like it's like 1 hour a night before bed. It's really not that much of a commitment, right? So I'm about halfway through the season and it's only okay. Like I said, it's kind of just, it feels kind of cheap in comparison, but Kristen Ritter is so good as Jessica Jones. She's like perfectly cast as a character that, she keeps me engaged enough. But to long answer to your question, that's why I picked it. I needed another show. It kind of felt like it fit the mold for me. I debated starting to start rewatching all of the next generation of Star Trek. I've been thinking about Picard, because there's a new.
You've been thinking
Picard
about Star
trailer.
Trek.
Yeah, because it was just First Contact Day the other day, which they like. It's always like a big deal for Star Trek. They put out a couple new trailers for things. There's a teaser for Picard season 2, for instance. I don't know if you saw that.
Did not.
Here's the Cliffs Notes. It brings back Q. That's the big. That's like the big thing. So I think season 1 of Picard wasn't very good. Okay. Just like it was all
chance here.
It was all over the place. Okay. It was just totally all over the place. It had like some good ideas, but I don't think it executed on them very well. And it brought in characters that were cool, like Seven of Nine is in it, but like I didn't feel like she had a lot to do. season 1 is really like all about this one scene. Really, you can just skip the rest of the entire season. Just watch this one scene between Picard and Data. It's either in the season finale or the episode before, and it's amazing. It's like the best. It's some of the best Star Trek you'll ever hear or see. But it's like wrapped up in this much more convoluted, not as interesting story. That being said, I think they're just trying to figure out what they do with Picard in a kind of post Next Gen world. I don't know if they quite nailed it, solved it yet, but bringing in Q is super fascinating, I think, because he's always been this like agent of chaos that kind of makes things way more exciting, right? A Q episode of Next Gen was always something to look forward to because it was like, who knows what's going to happen? Like, what kind of moral dilemma are they going to have to deal with? But it's going to be, wacky and zany, and like obviously the actor who plays Q is great, right? So he's back, and I think this is the direction that they should go. More of a personal story, because Q's always been connected to Picard in a very kind of personal way, right? I don't know. What do you think? Does Q say, okay, I'll watch season 2 of Picard, or no? Is that nothing's ever going to get you there?
I don't know about nothing, but that's certainly not it.
Okay, well, that's a shame. the other thing that came out of First Contact Day was the first images of this new CG animated Star Trek show that features Captain Janeway as like the main character, but it's all animated. Looks pretty cool, actually, and I'm super excited.
Janeway is from which show exactly?
Of course, Voyager. We just talked about.
Oh, wow!
Of course,
look at that.
Of course, yeah. It all comes around.
How exciting!
For me, it is, and for other Star Trek fans. I know there's other Star Trek fans out there, so don't sleep on new Star Trek, because there's a lot kind of happening right now in the world of Star Trek. Okay, let's move on. I watched a trailer for a Angelina Jolie movie called Those Who Wish Me Dead, and it has John Bernthal in it. And a couple other people you may or may not recognize, and it's kind of like Firewatch. Jeremy, you remember the game Firewatch?
Right.
So it has like the trappings of that. Like there's a mystery, there's somebody in a Firewatch tower. In this case, Angelina Jolie. And honestly, from the trailer, her performance seems very naturalistic and like kind of down to earth, and I'm kind of there for it, because we haven't really. When's the last thing we saw Angelina Jolie? And it's been a while. Salt came out in like 2004, man.
I'm just kidding.
That movie's good though. A real Bourne kind of like ripoff, but like one of the good ones, I would say.
Yeah.
And anyway, it just looks interesting. It's got this like underlying mystery, action thriller, firefighting thing. I don't know. It's coming out May 14th. I'll give it a shot. It would be or at least give the trailer a shot. More importantly, though, and I think more importantly to the fans of this show, is that Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I think you all remember as the Ghostbusters movie with Paul Rudd that was announced like 2 summers ago or whatever, and we got a trailer and it was like, next summer this is going to happen, and then COVID happened, and then we heard nothing about it, right? And so this is a bit of an aside, but one of the things that worries me about COVID and these movies that have been delayed is this idea that studios can't help themselves, and they're going to try to like recut these movies, or like add extra scenes. Like, it's just like, leave them be, let the movie come out, and like don't try to work on it too much. But we got this clip from the movie Ghostbusters Afterlife, and it's really weird because it's like very short. It's like 30 seconds long, of Paul Rudd buying ice cream at a it sounds so stupid. Paul Rudd buying ice cream at a grocery store, and then realizing that there's a bunch of Stay Puft Marshmallow Men coming to life, and then there's these like
mini,
mini. Not like the giant one from the original movie, like mini, like actually like the size of like a normal marshmallow.
And there's a bunch of them, and they're like doing crazy things.
There's
like roasting each other.
It's the roasting each other one is that's what's the most kind of fucked up about the whole thing, is like there's this shot of them roasting each other over a barbecue, and there's 2 of them on this like wire like stick.
Yeah, there's a bunch. I'm sure you could pause it and find a bunch of cool little
but it's so unsettling.
It's like, so chaotic.
It's
chaotic.
One is like pulling itself further down the stick. Like, it's just very unsettling. But again, Paul Rudd's barely in the movie in this clip. Other than to like make some comment about like a sauce or something. I don't even know. But like, what did you
Well,
make of
I
this?
think his I like I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I mean,
Mhm.
I lean into the unsettling type
Right.
feeling that you're getting,
Right.
which you seem a little bit uneasy with, but I think it lends to what the original like version of that was, right? Was the giant this giant
Yeah.
monster, but it's like
Yeah.
a cute, lovable type
Yep.
thing. So you get that here, but it's a different version. It's a mini version, but they're more like hellish and kind of pretty like
Hmm.
little creatures that are going to come after you and do crazy things. So
Right.
I liked it. I thought Paul Rudd's reaction at the end was just just him doing his natural thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's it. Paul
uh,
Rudd being Paul Rudd. Yeah.
yeah, so well, not really. I mean, it was just like like a reactionary shot, but he just
Yeah.
seemed so stunned. Um,
Well, yeah, no, that vacuum with a bunch of them like hits him in the foot, and then it's like cuts to all these
right.
other ones, and it's cuts away. But I think I agree with you, Jeremy. Like I'm not off put by the unsettledness. I was just surprised to see it in this like random clip that they put out. It just feels like it's just weird the way that they did it. Because
Yeah,
you're absolutely right about the
yeah,
tone. That is the Ghostbusters tone. It's like
yeah,
funny but also kind of unsettling.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that was the goal. It's let's release this thing that is going to show some familiarity or whatever,
Hmm.
but really showcase it in a new kind of interesting way, and not try to like overhaul this whole thing and just really like try to reinvent. Like, but it's again, it's just a little clip.
Yeah.
So I just think they had fun with it, and the expectations were kind of weird. Were weird. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
I mean, if you take ourselves back to when that trailer first dropped, like a year ago, um, I was pretty excited. Like I was like, this seems actually interesting, and like I just recently watched for the first time
I
that
actually don't really remember it. I just remember like the kids were involved and you see the car,
yeah,
and that's about it. But I think because it's very teasery, right? Like it
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
really dive too deep into what like everything.
Well, it just sets up this mystery about a town and like earthquakes,
Yeah.
and then yeah, it just like it just seemed to hit the right notes for me. And like this idea of bringing in the kids to it, I think kind of gives it this like Super 8, Spielbergian kind of
And
vibe.
the person directing it was the kid of the original director of the first one, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Which is awesome. So like I just think it's I'm cautiously optimistic for this. Like I think it's going to be pretty good.
and the original
This
and
movie.
the original cast is back in some capacity, right? Like
In some capacity, yeah.
yeah.
Like, we don't know how or what they're doing, and honestly, like the
But we
less I
know
know about
Bill
that, the better.
Murray is in it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and if Bill Murray's in it, Dan Aykroyd's gonna want to be in it. I mean, like, so like, I don't know, but and I don't really want to know how the original cast plays into it because, like, I think that'll be a fun surprise, and I think they know that they
Yeah.
want that to maintain that as a surprise, but. Like not knowing they were even in it would even be better, but obviously, that's not what we're in the movie news business, so we're gonna talk about the news. But I just don't. I like prefer to be unspoiled on this because again, I just recently rewatched or watched that remake that the like women led remake, and I thought it was pretty funny, but it didn't hit this tone of like unsettling kind of like uh dark humor is not present there. It's just like more like straight up comedy with some like gross slime stuff. Like that's really the extent of like the grossness. So I don't think they quite nailed it. Although I do think that movie was unfairly kind of thrown under the bus at the time.
Still
There was a
haven't
lot
still
of.
haven't seen it.
I would recommend it if it's like something you just like
Yeah.
a chill, don't want to
I
just throw
might.
something on in the background. It's fun.
It looks like yeah, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson are all coming
Oh,
back.
interesting. Okay,
So
that would be pretty freaking cool. To be honest, like I want to see that. call me old fashioned. Here's the thing: I haven't seen in a long time. Ghostbusters 2. Everyone says it's not good, or at least not. It's like not even close to as good as the first
then
movie.
obviously Harold Ramis, who passed away, I think, a few
Yeah,
years ago.
right. Which obviously unfortunate. He was such a integral part of the first movie, so not having him
Yeah,
around is
he was
going to be a
cool.
little upsetting. But I think the idea is to try to start like a new Ghostbusters kind of franchise, right? So you kind of need to pass the torch at some point anyway.
Yeah, that's probably what the whole thing is about.
What why do you think Ghostbusters as a franchise seems to have such staying power? Like, why do they keep wanting to remake Ghostbusters movies of all things? Because there's only been one good one, and it's like, why? Why? I don't
Well,
get it. But
too.
like the second, I mean, I don't know. Some people really don't like the second one. I have to rewatch it to know what my thoughts are on it. I don't remember.
Yeah, I just think it's just cool. It's like they're all back. It's another adventure, but I don't think it's as good as the first one, but it's definitely still cool.
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I just think the time it came out, it just kind of blew the audience away. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
and just the the chemistry between the actors and the comedic ability. Um, it's just a fun and the music.
Oh yeah,
So I don't know.
that
I
song
just
is probably keeps this franchise alive single handedly. Like honestly, like every year you hear it at Halloween and you always remember what Ghostbusters is, and like every kid has seen Ghostbusters because their parents put it on for them at around Halloween because it's like a Halloween movie, quote unquote, that's like
yeah.
fairly accessible to kids, I'd say.
Yeah, it's just a great tale of like unlikely heroes. Like
Hmm.
so, I don't know. It's pretty cool. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. Okay, there was also a trailer. So I thought, it's kind of a surprise trailer for me, which was Batman: The Long Halloween Part One,
Right.
which
Surprise trailer for you. What do you
I didn't expect it to come. Like I wasn't ready for this trailer. You know what I
mean?
mean? Like it just kind of came out of left field
Came
for
out
me.
of
Like, oh look,
nowhere.
there it is one
Yeah.
day. And it has an interesting cast. That being said, I thought the trailer was only okay. The one thing that really stands out to me is that Jensen Ackles has been cast as Batman for this film, and Jensen Ackles you'll remember from
Supernatural
Supernatural,
fame.
of course. Right. I mean that's his. That's who.
That's his go-to. I mean, that's
That's his
his
go-to.
last
Yeah.
decade plus.
And well, yeah, yeah. He was in Supernatural from 2005 to 2020, so that's really crazy, like actually crazy. And he's going to be in season 3
Yeah.
of The Boys, so
I
that's
think
really cool.
he's voice acted for DC before.
He
Like,
has, but here's the
did he
thing:
do Red Hood?
he
I feel like he
did.
did Red Hood.
Yes, he did. So if you scroll right down on my IMDb that I'm looking at right now, he
You
played
have to
Jason
scroll down.
Todd, Red Hood,
Right.
and I liked his performance as Jason Todd. That being said, his performance was cut out of the most recent release of the like Under the Red Hood story that they did, that kind of choose your own adventure one. They
Yeah, with
replaced
the
his
same
performance.
look and yeah, it was like the same continuity
That
as
one
Choose Your Own Adventure.
that one was dumb in my opinion because it like basically was just a recut of the movie with like a couple extra scenes.
Yeah,
And
like
I found that frustrating.
I didn't like I didn't realize exactly what it was going to be and like,
Hmm.
but it was a cool what if scenario, kind of branching past, and you can kind of go back and see them. But I was kind of shocked with some of the events that unfolded in it. So for me, that kind of unsettling like
Right.
thing was pretty cool. Seeing the coin flip, so to speak, or whatever,
Hmm.
in
Well, I
the
mean,
roles.
it played off that like idea of like vote to kill off the Joker, which is where that all
Yeah,
came
that
from in the
too.
first
Yeah,
place, right?
from all the phone calls.
But anyway, he was recast, or like they redid his voice lines for that because they wanted to do like a younger and an older version that matched
Mm.
of the Jason Todd character. So that kind of sucks. But they cast him as Batman for this movie, and I don't think it works. Like from what I've
Really?
seen, from what I saw in that trailer, I was not a fan. That being
Huh.
said,
Interesting.
there's some really cool casting here. Troy Baker as the Joker. Troy Baker
He's
played
been
the
doing the
Joker.
Joker like for a while.
He's played the Joker for a little bit,
Vince.
but what I like about his Joker though is that he's doing kind of like I wouldn't say impersonation of Mark Hamill's Joker, but like a riff on it. It's very
Yeah, it's definitely a riff.
in that vein, and I really like it. I think it's really really cool. But you have a really good voice cast here. So we have, like I said, Troy Baker. We have Jack Quaid from The Boys fame. He's playing Alberto. I don't know. We have Josh Duhamel. He's playing Harvey Dent. Didn't we just talk about him?
Maybe
Titus
Duhamel.
Titus Welliver. We just saw him in The Mandalorian. He's playing Carmine Falcone. There's some really like I think interesting voice cast decisions here. I just don't know if Jensen Ackles is the right choice. but we'll see. I mean, and it's being split into 2 movies. What did you think of the art design, this like the style that they went with?
Yeah, I think it's on par with their kind of new kickoff to this universe, right? With
Hmm.
the Man of Tomorrow,
Yep.
the simplistic type
Yep.
look. But and I'm a fan of it because I feel like it just looks really good in motion. Like the animation is just smooth,
Hmm.
and you can follow it all. It's not messy, so I like it for that reason. And but for me, like the trailer, I guess I watched it late at night or something, but I had nothing to
Like it's just
kind
not
of take
memorable to
away
you.
from it. Yeah, it's not memorable at all. So that's concerning. But I vaguely remember Jensen Ackles, doing a voice that to me was just like a spot on kind of just trying to sound cool almost as
Yeah.
Batman. So that's why I'm curious as to why it didn't necessarily work for you.
I don't know. Like
Uh, 'cause-
like there's one line in there where he's like threatening like some sort of bad guy of some kind. I don't know who it was, but
a thug.
and it was just like it just felt very cliche, like not rote, I
Right.
guess. Like it was just I've seen this version of Batman done a million times, and I've actually seen this version of Batman done better. At least like from a voice performance standpoint, it just wasn't interesting.
How many versions of Batman
Have
do you
we
have?
collectively seen together voice?
Or,
I don't know,
yeah,
probably 20,
just
25, like easily, like you know.
but this time it's just too
It's just too
it's
generic.
just too
But I
generic.
just need to.
Okay.
Maybe I need to see more. Maybe I need to see more.
Right.
Because like it's interesting because we bring up Batman Under the Red Hood, which I think when we did our kind of rankings of Batman or sorry DC animated films, this was number 1 I think on all of our lists if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I think it was 1 and 2. I think Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Right. That's a really
We
good one
kind of
too.
we kind of almost agreed you can swap them out
Hmm.
to a certain extent, just because one's a Batman story
And what's a
and
Justice League story?
one's more of a Justice League
Yeah.
DC lore type thing. So
But Bruce Greenwood, speaking of Star Trek, Bruce Greenwood
well,
played
what a
Batman in that movie.
fantastic man! He grew on me. Like I was not down initially, but I guess because he kept coming back, it just really worked for me.
I think he is underrated as a Batman voice.
Yeah,
Everyone talks about like the mainstays, right?
right.
And
I
I
think
just
he
think
can be
Bruce
up there
Greenwood
now.
just did such a good job, and I don't understand why he's not back for more stuff.
Well, I mean,
You know,
because they ended that whole type of continuity, right? Like,
yeah, but the Red Hood stuff
but he
wasn't even
was,
in that continuity.
yeah, he was replaced with a different guy for like the Justice League continuity type stuff. But he was almost kind of similar.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I always thought he was kind of boring too. The guy that they had
yeah,
doing
he wasn't. Yeah,
yeah,
I
whoever
agree
they
with
had
that.
for that last animated DC run, that like interconnected stuff, it was
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah.
Like again, it's probably gonna be very similar to how I feel about Jensen, which is just like I'm ready for something that's like that's Batman. Like I want to be able to just be like just know and just feel Batman when I
It's
hear
just
the voice,
not
and I just
feeling it
don't
right
I just
now.
don't get that. And again, I'll just give him some more time. Who knows? But I agree with you, Jeremy, about the visual style. I think it's a very cool look, and I'm happy that they decided to stick
Yeah,
with that for this, which makes you wonder if they're going to try to do a more interconnected type of animated
yeah.
universe
Because
again,
we
or
get
if not.
we get the Justice Society movie as well. I think
Yeah,
for this, and that's again same visual style.
we were saying for a long time that they needed a refresh, and it seems like they picked one, and
Yeah,
so
they
far
did.
so
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Okay, so then the last thing I want to talk about is the Space Jam, a New Legacy trailer. We'd heard all these crazy things about Space Jam: A New Legacy before this trailer came out. Like it's gonna have every Warner Brothers character you've ever heard of in it, and it's gonna have like all this stuff. And turns out that was all true because this trailer is overstuffed with like every Easter egg character you've
It's
ever.
overstuffed.
I think it's over. You don't think so? I don't know. Like,
It's funny to label it that.
I don't. I don't. This movie doesn't look good, but I think if I was an adult when I saw the original trailer for Space Jam, I probably would have done the same thing.
Wow.
So I am willing to give this movie its fair shake. We don't get a lot of like performances, quote unquote, in this trailer. It's like a lot of just like flashy, show off all the cool characters.
Just Braun having fun.
Yeah, and but LeBron is barely even has any lines in the trailer, and I have concerns over his acting ability. But I mean, it's not like Michael Jordan. It's not like Michael Jordan had a great acting abilities
Wait,
either.
you have concerns over
I don't. Yeah,
this
he seemed a
NBA
little
star's
stiff.
acting ability?
He seemed
With
a little
no
stiff.
prior acting experience?
That's all I'm saying. Whether for fair or unfair, I'm saying it seemed a little stiff.
I
Do
just,
you
I,
do you
yeah, I'm
disagree?
laughing. No, I'm laughing because I just think it's obvious. I think it's unfair. It, you can't just step into this huge
Right.
blockbuster from the the NBA stage, even though he's
Right.
a superstar
Right.
and he does multiple things. It just no, he gets a pass. In my
Okay. Fair. You've convinced me on that. The other thing that bummed me out was not enough of the Toon characters were like really present. It was a lot of like,
well, they're rejected in this
all right, the
Matrix
rejects.
verse
Right.
thing.
Sorry, it's called the
Don
server,
Cheadle.
Jeremy. It's called the serververse. Okay, which I think I'm going out on a limb here and say that's the least creative name they could have come up with
Oh, it's
for that
terrible.
world. It's so bad. And like, why is Don Cheadle the like head of it? And he's like, it's just Don Cheadle being Don Cheadle. It's like it's not even like some cool
And he's
character.
ahead too. When he's in the computer.
It's stupid. Like it's a bad idea. I don't like. I don't know what this movie's really gonna be about. But if it's
Well, it's a great trailer though. Like when you just like take
is it a
all that
great
away.
trailer? Is it,
Because
Jeremy?
it's so typical, right? It
Right.
gives you the setup. We're on this ride. It is what it is. And then
Mhm.
like the stakes just get like it just goes straight to like the end like sequence almost like
Yeah.
how it builds up and they all put their hands in. We can do this together, and then
Right.
he does the big jump, but then the joke cuts in. So yeah, I just thought like it was constructed well, but it just does not seem genuine whatsoever.
Right. It does feel like a kind of like a giant commercial. I think
Yeah.
for like Warner Brother properties. Like
Unfortunately,
there's
that's just how it comes across.
there's
But
no reason to have King Kong in this movie, like or Iron Giant or the Flintstones. Like none of them need to be there. Like what? Why?
it was
why-
just that I think they're not going to be like. I don't think these characters are going to be relevant.
They're like in
to
the
the
audience,
movie.
right?
Yeah, it's a weird choice to throw that at us at the initial look of this movie, like,
Right.
and everyone's making the comparison to Ready Player One. I mean,
Well, it's
completely
obvious comparison.
fair,
I was gonna
but
make it.
and
Yeah.
it's like you get the Iron Giant. Like, I don't like who cares to name all these things? Like, it's just their properties, and why is it in our Space Jam movie? And
Right. Exactly.
so we'll see. Now we're not going to talk about this movie anymore. And if
Right.
it comes out, we'll go.
Oh,
Just look.
Jeremy. Oh, okay,
Sorry.
you're back. No, you're all
So,
good. I lost you for a
I'll just say
second.
just terrible first look, but I can see how a massive part of the audience is going to watch this trailer and be like, I can't wait to see that. That looks good. That looks exciting. That was good.
Yeah. Right.
But
Like this
from
is
our
what I want.
perspective,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not doing much for us currently here,
I
especially with all those ads essentially kind of thrown in there for just no reason, except for that it's going to be a fun world to play in, and maybe we get sequences that are going to trend, on social media of LeBron and some crazy
it was we already seen it.
scenario because they threw the Game of Thrones thing like immediately off
Yeah.
the bat, right? Which is just
Yeah.
so strange, but
Well, the
a global
one that
phenomenon.
everyone jumped on Twitter that I thought was hilarious was that like they're like in the background of like they're watching the game is the characters from fuck what's this crazy movie
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange, the Clockwork Orange, and that movie is if you've seen Clockwork Orange, it's fucking nuts, right? Like it's a weird ass movie, and like why of all the characters and all of the Warner Brothers stuff would you bring them into this movie? Like,
I mean, it's iconic. It doesn't necessarily mean
just
it's
the
going to
look, I
bring
guess.
their motives or their what they're trying to say.
But when you see
To
them,
me,
it raises the question, right? Like you're like, why are
Yeah.
they, like what are they doing watching a
You know what?
animated
That's one
basketball
movie I haven't
movie?
seen, so I can't really speak on the subject. To be fair, that's like
Okay, fair
guilty
enough. That's a
omission,
gap
I
in your
guess.
film.
But
Yeah.
to me, it's like it's a Halloween costume. It's you wear that
Yeah.
white get up with the makeup around the one eye,
Mhm.
the top hat, and it's a weird Stanley Kubrick, right? Movie or
Yeah, I would just I would like listen. Don't let your kids watch it, but it is a movie worth watching. It's fucking nuts, but it's a very good movie. That being said, out of place in seeming like with next to the Iron Giant seems out of place. And by the way, the other thing that jumped out on Twitter that I also thought was funny, and it seems to be brought up fairly often, and was again, by the way, with Ready Player One, was that they keep using the Iron Giant as a weapon in all these movies, when his only thing, the only story beat about Iron Giant is that he doesn't want to be used as a weapon. Like that's the whole point of that movie. And it just
Right.
seems like they're just nobody cares about the actual properties themselves. They just want
So they're
like
just Warner
the
Brothers
look.
just tone deaf as per usual.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's unsurprising.
Did you
Unsurprising.
see the Game of Thrones memes?
I saw that. No, I didn't. This for Space Jam specifically.
Yeah, like I think what Eric Goldman I think tweeted it.
Mm.
Um, he just wrote it said "Welcome to Space Jam," and then it was a GIF of what's her the mother at the red wedding,
Oh,
in the Philippines.
right.
And
Yeah,
that was,
that's
and it's
good.
just what a crazy joke, but um, or you're just thought to draw from that.
You're like, like what's
But
it
okay.
just makes you wonder what the fuck's happening in Warner Brothers' head that they think that connecting those two things together is like a good idea.
Yeah, well,
Which
it just goes right to the most extreme of that property. So
yeah, I like it. So you're right. Let's not talk about this movie again at all until it comes out. There's really nothing left to talk about. We have enough. We have enough information here. I will watch
well,
it.
Zendaya is Lola Bunny, I think. So
Sorry, who?
Zendaya.
Oh, that's a
Voice
good casting, I guess. But
was cool.
I know there was some like controversy around like Lola Bunny's like character redesign, all this stuff. I don't want to get into it. It was already
No,
stupid. We're
it's
talking about
bullshit.
a cartoon bunny rabbit. It doesn't matter. Okay, let's move on. Netflix has signed a $450 million deal with Ryan Johnson and Daniel
Ooh,
Craig for Knives Out 2
money,
and
money,
Knives
money,
Out 3.
money.
Yeah, like this was shocking to me. Like when I saw this news
Was it? Yeah.
come across, yeah, I was shocked. I was like, first of all, a little disappointed that Knives Out 2 and 3 won't come to theaters. So that already is upsetting to me. But shocked that they were willing to pay $450 million.
It does need to be a theater movie though.
It doesn't have to be, but I would like it to be. You know,
Yeah, but I don't think it's a detriment to it's
right?
it's viewing or like you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like you could say like a big action blockbuster because you need those things accentuated and loud and
yeah.
this it's definitely fun having it there, but I think they know what the audience wants when they're at home and the success of that movie. I think it was just an inevitability. Like they announced they were going to do stuff in this universe almost they were calling it, right? Where
Right.
Daniel Craig was going to be this character uh that would be our lead into
Benoit
whatever
Blanc, I
scenario.
believe is
Yeah.
his name. Yeah.
So I remember that was being talked about. So when this was announced, it's like, okay, like they clearly know what the demand is, and to hear, I think, was it Daniel Craig's getting 100 million per movie, or is it just
That's my
100?
I understand that everyone involved in this is getting about
Yeah,
$100 million a piece.
wow,
Yeah.
wow,
Which is
Daniel
like,
Craig, wow.
first of all, imagine 1 million and then times that by 100, and that's how
And
much
then
they're making.
times that by two because they're gonna make another one.
Right, 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 right.
Daniel
Because
Craig is set. It's over. Like
well,
that. Like no wonder Justin Timberlake isn't making music anymore. And he's trying to act and
right.
stuff. It's like you need to find that one breakout movie and
I mean,
then
that's an interesting. I was surprised when you brought Justin Timberlake into this, but
well because I was on one of the streaming apps or whatever, or maybe it was like a list of like top shared movies or watch movies, and I just saw like a random Justin Timberlake movie in there that I never heard about. And I'm like, how is that in the top? Whatever, but it's like, well, he's a famous guy, so
right.
he has an audience he's drawing in. I don't know, but
So Knives Out made $311 million like globally,
yeah,
which is a huge
but the
amount of
budget
money
was
because I think
probably
it only cost like $40 million to make. Like it was like a pretty
yeah,
cheap
extremely
movie.
low.
But this is where I'm always confused because like okay, Netflix is going to pay $450 million for the second and third movies in this franchise. By the way, Amazon Prime has the rights for the first one right now, which I'm sure they'll get back when they go to the.
It's essentially Clue, the IP. In
Well,
movie form.
right, but why? Who would have thought? Here's the first thing is, would you have thought that Clue, a modern version of Clue, would be this popular? A, to make this much money,
Yes.
and then B,
Well, it's hindsight now.
would be so popular that Netflix would be willing to pay $450 million for 2 sequels? Because like, how do they make that money back? Like, I don't fully understand that quite yet. if they're not releasing it in theaters, maybe they will.
Yeah, it's
I
definitely
don't
tough
know.
because we're just used to the budget and then
Yeah.
what the box
Return.
office total
Yeah.
is at the end of the run,
Right.
and we always subtract the that budget plus the marketing, and then we
Yeah.
deem how much do they double it? Did they whatever,
Right.
right?
It was
So
success
the
failure
streaming the
essentially.
streaming wars is just different, right? So I mean, it's too yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of money,
Yeah,
but
we just keep
again,
coming back to that
in this
basically.
world, right? Streaming wars, content is everything. And I think these are movies.
Yeah.
I think this world is perfect for at home viewing.
I agree.
Um, uh,
I agree.
so and
I
Daniel
like I
Craig is
said, I agree,
brilliant
but
as well.
I would like it in the theaters. So it's just a
Well, I mean, I
distinction.
fell asleep when we saw it in the
Right,
theaters.
right. We were talking about this before we started recording. You fell asleep for 20 minutes in an hour and a half
20,
long movie.
20, 30 minutes, I think.
But like really,
completely
you
missed.
got the gist
I
of
woke
it.
up. I
you know?
woke up as soon as the shaky cam, I think, came into effect.
Oh yeah.
With the Anna de Armas. I don't know if that's towards the maybe I'm making that up, but I feel like I
You
was
were just
I woke up when like the culprit was revealed and it was
right.
like all kind of being spelt out.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's funny that you say I didn't know you fell asleep because we came out of that movie and we're like, we liked it. We are like, this is a really good movie, and we liked, and like I was like, yeah, stoked. I was like, here's the thing though, I'm
I
really
was in some
excited
sort
for
of
Ryan
dream state,
Johnson. I'm
probably.
really excited for Daniel Craig. Sorry, what?
I was in some sort of dream state apparently.
Right? Yeah, you're like, I loved it. You're like, just completely different movie. Um, but now this probably means that his Star Wars project is even further away. You know, unfortunately, if this Star Wars project is still real, which we reported recently that apparently it is, it's probably at least 4 years away now. At before it even starts production.
That's a massive scope type deal. It's like a 3
Yeah.
movie type deal, and he's not even directing all 3, right? He's basically just
Writing.
he's just it's just his creative type
I was
thing,
sure about
right?
that. I don't think that's
I
true.
don't think it was 3. I don't think it was 3 movies for him to direct, was it?
The original thing was he was going to get his own trilogy,
Yeah,
and then
maybe. Okay.
I mean, like, and
I don't know,
it
I'm
might have
confused a
things
little
have
bit.
changed. Obviously, I would have to imagine at Lucasfilm,
Yeah.
but
But anyways, this
yeah.
Netflix stuff, this is easy to produce. This is easy to
Oh
just
my
get
God.
done, I think.
this is
It's
top
writing
tier
that's
Netflix
the issue.
content in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
There's
top tier.
no special effects
Not really.
necessary
Yeah.
essentially. This is just, get the script good and just shoot
This is
it in
just a
houses.
rare.
Shoot
It's
it
a
in bedrooms and houses and
right, but
cool
interesting
air
looking
places.
bedrooms and houses. They have to be
Yeah.
cool looking. The thing, it's shocking because there's just so few like adult dramas that are like popular, like, or widely popular anymore. This just is one of them, and then of course it got turned into a franchise almost immediately. So, not surprising there. So speaking of Netflix, they have inked a deal with Sony for their first run films for their 2022 slate, and presumably going further. So Netflix has, and this is I'm reading from a Variety article here, Netflix has emerged the winner of a nearly 2-year auction for the exclusive U.S. rights to stream Sony Pictures theatrical releases in the first pay TV window, starting with the studio's 2022 slate. By the way, the first pay TV window is a phrase I've never heard before, really. But I kept like reading about more of this, and it just basically it's everything we already understand. It's like where it goes first after theatrical, right?
Yeah, because content now is just going to circulate if it's not completely owned by someone.
Well, exactly. And Sony doesn't have their own streaming service, which is why this is happening. So Netflix has also set a first look agreement with Sony for all the studio's original movies produced for direct-to-streaming market. The deal also requires Netflix to commit to a certain number of titles from the studio, but it doesn't stop Sony from selling direct-to-streaming titles to Netflix's rivals like Amazon or whoever. In that case, however, Netflix would have first right of refusal on the projects for Sony to be able to sell it to another streamer. As a part of the pact, Netflix will license an unspecified number of older titles for Sony's movie vault. I mean, so it's just like they'll just have some legacy titles. With this news, by the way, we found out that Uncharted, around the time of this news, the Uncharted movie that we're all looking forward to is scheduled. It's been moved again. It's been moved to February 18th, 2022. So early next year, and will be coming to Netflix, by the way, shortly after its theatrical release in the United States. By the way, this is a U.S. deal. But I don't know what this means necessarily for Canada or for other parts of the world. But right now, that's what we're looking at. What does this mean? Like, first blush, Jeremy, how's this come off to you?
Uh, I mean, it's just I guess I immediately think of Disney and Marvel,
Right.
of
Yeah.
course. So that's it's just strange, yeah. Like you're gonna see the future Spider-Man movies on Netflix,
But I mean,
right? At some
I
point.
presumably, right? Either that or they'll cut a deal to put them on Disney Plus with the rest of them. It seems like there's wiggle room in this contract for that to happen. That being said, like the Sony Spider-Man situation's already kind of fucked up, so like that just adds
There's
more
rumors that
complications to this.
Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire are gonna come back for a fourth.
What? Like to pick up where they left off?
Yeah.
No,
But
Jeremy, no.
that's like future. That's not gonna be anywhere close right
We
now.
can
Like
can we agree that that's a bad idea? I think that's a bad idea. I don't know, maybe you disagree, but I think that's a bad idea. There's just too much of this like looking backwards stuff. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about The Last of Us. I want to touch on that story, even though it's more of a video game story. A lot of looking backwards in it by all these major studios these days, and I think it's a mistake in the long run. But we'll get to more. For me, I think we talk about like, hey, where movies are going to be. It's like it's always confusing, like which place these things are going to be. It's nice to know that hey, a Sony movie is going to come out on Netflix stuff. We know that Paramount's movies will come to Paramount Plus. We know Disney's stuff will come to Disney Plus. Warner Brothers stuff will come to HBO Max. It's just
I mean,
the
no,
less
Warner Brothers is
complicated.
gonna do exclusive theaters in next year.
Right. I mean, so our understanding, and I guess we haven't talked about this on the show, but the when they talked about, hey, for this year, for 2021, all day and date with theaters, and they're like, it's just for 1 year, and we're like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. But it looks like they were being honest, and they really are going to kind of backpedal that a little bit next year when they start doing, I guess, an actual gap. They'll go to theaters, and then there'll be a time frame, and then it'll still go to HBO Max, but not directly to HBO Max day and date. Is that right, or am I misinterpreting it?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't looked into it that deep. It's just interesting seeing their strategies, and we're not even there yet, but that's where they're heading, I guess.
Well, yeah, the 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 foundations of the movie industry as we know it are kind of shifting on a daily basis, like under our feet, right? So, what a studio's decision to do about a theatrical window today might be completely different in 6 months when the pandemic is over and we don't and theaters are opening again or whatever. Like we just don't know.
Yeah.
But
They
I mean,
have
the
to
streaming wars aren't
measure.
over.
They have to measure all this HBO Max initiative. You have to measure this entire year and see how these properties perform.
Oh, for sure,
Uh,
losing money, man. They're definitely losing
yeah,
money. Like, there's just no way they're not. Like, you release a movie like Godzilla versus
but
Kong. By the way,
yeah,
Godzilla versus Kong raked in on its opening day 9.6 million, which is not a lot of money in what we're used to talking about in like a theatrical release, but it's the most since the pandemic.
yeah.
And
So that's the thing.
yeah,
That's always at the forefront of the conversation. In any initiative is it's not an initiative to be a historic, rounding success. It's to do the best you can, amidst the circumstances.
right.
But it still will be curious to see, how people prefer streaming and how much people are streaming uh, at the end of this year to see just to see, and how does that translate to revenue in other ways that we don't understand
Mm.
or can
Yeah,
measure. So
yeah. Stargate Pioneer on YouTube brings this up. By the way, thank you for listening, Stargate Pioneer. Stargate, great show, by the way. Well, maybe I don't really remember. I just liked it when I was a kid. Um, he says, or they say, I don't know if it's he. I'm old enough that there was a time that we never got this amount of comic and sci-fi content growing up. That's a great point. I'll never complain about having
yeah,
too
for
much,
sure.
but I have become much more
But we
selective
complain.
on what I watch. I mean,
We
yeah,
complain
I guess
nonetheless.
here's the thing though. Like, are we so much complaining, or are we asking for it to be good? Like, if you're gonna make it, like, let's have it to be, let's make it good, and like hold their feet to the fire
Therein
and
lies the
say like
problem.
it's. I don't think that's a lot to ask, right? I don't know. There's not a third season of Luke Cage. There is a third season of Jessica Jones. Okay, I was right about that. We'll be covering it on our show after the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Okay, cool, sweet. And apparently he's 40 minutes behind on the show. That's fine. You'll catch up later, Stargate Pioneer. All good. Okay, So let's move on here. To let's talk about, speaking of Warner Brothers being maybe not necessarily tone deaf, but just confused about their strategies. They have canceled another couple DC movies, just adding
Great.
more, like I said, confusion to their kind of DC slate and strategy.
No
So,
action.
sorry, what?
And like just no action for so
Yeah,
long.
it's like we don't hear anything, and then this is the news. It's depressing. So Warner Brothers cancels New Gods and The Trench, and I'll just read quickly from a Slashroom article, though the actual scoop is from THR. Warner Brothers has canceled two of their upcoming DC superhero related titles: New Gods, which is going to be directed by Ava DuVernay, and the Aquaman spinoff The Trench. Reasons for the cancellations vary. New Gods was set to have Darkseid as a villain, and Warner Bros. Apparently doesn't want to return to that character so soon after Zack Snyder's Justice League, whereas the studio thinks an Aquaman sequel is good enough and they don't need to worry about spin-offs set in that world. I know there's more to it. My understanding is that they're trying to go back to more about cohesive, connected universe. I think we kind of
really?
suspected that. I think we kind of suspected that following the.
Following what, DC fandom when they talk
No,
about the multiverse?
no. I think when we're talking about like the upcoming Flashpoint movie, kind of resetting things, I think it's not surprising that they would be going towards trying to reconnect it or trying to establish a more cohesive universe. I don't think so. I don't. What do you think? What do you think about this whole story? I guess
It just makes me want to pull my hair out.
Jimmy, don't do that.
I won't. Yeah, it's just, yeah, like, I don't know. It's crazy the reasonings that we hear, and just what, like, just the non-info, but what we do get, and it just all doesn't mesh. It's always changing. It's just so annoying to hear. It's terrible to be like, awaiting the the most anticipated type IPs that we just have no idea how they're going to turn out, or how they connect, if they do multiverse or not. Director driven studio, like, it's nuts. It's just a mess, a complete mess. So
But at
this
the
is
same
just brutal
time,
hearing this around this time too. Like, this New God movie would have been nuts.
I mean, okay,
I was
I agree
I
with
thought
you
it
on
was
that.
great. I
So
thought it, like, and the people, the creatives involved. You've got Ava DuVernay and Tom King from the comics, who
yeah,
is revolutionizing the comic book writing. Well, he's just bringing his whole flair to it, and it's. I mean, they took his stuff for WandaVision, right? Like some of
hmm
the
hmm
some of his
well, from that,
writings
yeah,
are
from that
so.
Vision comic series from a few years ago, yeah.
And then, and just to, with their statement, whatever article, just to to bring up Zack Snyder as a reason as to why this is being canceled, is just, it's just so ridiculous to me. It's just,
Well,
I
see,
can't see the other side of it.
I think that excuse doesn't really hold water. I mean, like,
It's brutal.
you're gonna tell
Nuts.
me that you're worried about the fans being confused about the
Yeah.
inclusion of the same character when you literally re-released a movie
Brutal.
that was released
Said it
3 years ago.
and
Like,
and
that's not
and
confusing
and said
already.
it wasn't, and said this new one wasn't canon, and that the other one was.
Like,
We've had Ezra Miller meet,
the
what's his name,
Grant Gustin.
Grant Gustin, Flash.
Yeah.
We have potentially three Batman in the upcoming Flash movie.
Yeah, well,
We have
yeah.
a Joker standalone movie. Walter Amott himself at DC Fandom preached the multiverse, and preached how you can
hmm
incorporate all these different studios and creatives and not be beholden to continuity. So, this is just astounding to hear. Like,
Well,
it's
I don't know. I mean, here's my kind of other, maybe I'm not necessarily saying it was a good idea to cancel these movies. What I would say is that I forgot that these movies existed. For the record, they were announced. I don't know when they were announced. I'm imagining it was a couple years ago.
more than
And then
that. It's like 2017, something like that.
that's like a few years ago.
It's basically been in development. New Guys have been in development for essentially 4 years.
Which is obviously crazy, right?
Yeah, and I follow Ava DuVernay and Tom King on Twitter. I've seen their back and forth.
Mhm.
Tom King's pretty cool. He always like posts like what he's reading for like information type purposes. They've become sort of like a kind of a duo, in a sense, online, and then they even like had a moment where they kind of, apologized to the fans, and and talking to one another, and how it was such a privilege to work on these characters and develop this world, that we're being told is just it's not happening anymore. It's just amongst everything else, it's just really troubling to
Right.
me. But I can understand if a studio has a specific vision for what they want their content to look like and represent holistically.
Hmm.
It just completely comes, looks like the term. But I agree they have to do whatever their plan set in motion. But it just seems like there's a lot of messy stuff going on and
Right.
hypocrisy. So
So I'll try to put a positive spin a little bit on
sure.
this, okay? Which is that they said that these projects are going to remain in the hands of these creators. So in this case, Ava DuVernay and Tom King. Is it King? Tom King.
Tom King.
Uh, and so that's good. So if they ever
That's
do want
that's
to
a
revisit this,
that's a
that
strange, you know, that's
choice,
it's
it's like a
almost just
weird
like
thing to say.
it's such an it's like isn't that like that's a cop out, isn't it? Like that's like we're
I
not
mean,
totally canceling these because
I mean, no, no,
you
no,
look at
no. Yeah, they
like,
are. They definitely
well,
are.
they
They
are, but
definitely
they're
are.
saying we aren't because you look at today's world and you say look into the past, which is you feel like is a theme or whatever.
It seems to be.
But it's like that's like the well that we can go into and dip into nostalgia or whatever you want to call it, whatever's in that
Hmm.
well that
Hmm.
usually ends up working at some point. Like, and you compare this to the restored Snyderverse and certain people involved who could create content in a specific way becomes more of a desire or a realistic thing. So
Well,
it's weird to kind of utilize that part of the game, right, and
mhm.
use it to spin it positively. So I agree that it's a positive thing. It's just I like to read in between the lines a bit more here, I guess.
Right, and that's fair. By the way, I'm a big Ava DuVernay fan. I think she's great. Like, and I think
Yeah.
the being having known about having by the way having known about it, then forgotten about it, and then learned about it again, only to find out that it was canceled, is kind of a bit of a emotional roller coaster because the
Yeah.
idea of an Ava DuVernay New Gods movie is kind of cool. That being said, we don't know if it was going to be set in the quote unquote Snyderverse or how that was going to work. I imagine it was going to be
I would
different.
yeah, I would like just
Yeah.
even getting a taste of that there in the Snyder cut. It's like how cool would it just to be to jump into that fourth world, right? To where you don't have to. It doesn't necessarily need to be that same continuity. Like
Yeah, I think it would
they,
need to be more
they,
bright.
yeah,
Yeah,
they would just introduce these characters on this world or two
right.
worlds or whatever, and we go from there. Like if they want to
Yeah.
borrow certain elements, whatever. But man, I would have been so stoked to see
I
that
mean,
become.
yeah, because the here's the New Gods is tough. Like, I think we can all agree, like, that's a difficult,
I mean,
like,
it's a
concept to bring to film.
pinnacle part in comic history. That's Jack
Jack
Kirby
Kirby's, yeah.
leaving Marvel and then going to DC, right? And then that's his big thing, and it's just
But like
yeah,
it is a bit convoluted. It's a bit funky. It's like very
sure,
like psychedelic, like but it is cool. Like this idea of like exchanging suns about these
yeah,
old god wars and like it's really like there's really cool stuff there. And again, who cares what the tone is going to be or whatever? The
right,
fact that we don't get this Ava DuVernay film sucks. On the other hand, again, spinning positively,
sure,
part of what they're saying here is that they're like, hey, we didn't want to just keep this stuff in like development limbo forever. So like, hey, we'll let them
as
go.
it already has been.
Well, because it already has been, and like, well, they don't want to leave it any longer. So it's like,
Yeah,
let them go, do their own thing. If at some point they come back and we can figure out a way to do it, great. If not, whatever, fuck it. But
hmm
here's the kind of the damning. So this again, I'm reading from the Slash Film article here, and I think this is kind of speaks to what you're saying. This is the last sentence, basically of the article, the piece. Trying to cobble together a big shared superhero multiverse, a la Marvel, is what got Warner Brothers in trouble to begin with. Meanwhile, Joker, a completely standalone movie, was a major hit and took home multiple Oscars. The lesson learned should be that it's wiser to forge ahead with strong individual movies rather than worry about a cinematic universe. But it's clear that Warner Brothers does not agree with that.
yeah, out of nowhere,
So yeah,
somehow.
I mean, because it is weird because they do seem to be kind of like flip flopping. It's like, oh, we're making Matt Reeves the Batman, and that's not really going to be connected to anything. And then we're
Oh
doing
yeah,
this Joker
they
movie,
announced
and like,
recently out of nowhere through some sort of thing that the Robert Pattinson Batman will be set on Earth 2.
oh yeah, I've heard about
It's
that. I
just like
remember
what?
hearing something. I'm like, I heard that, and I was like, when did they announce that? that, and I don't I don't recall that being like
Yeah.
a news story, but like it's
And
just
then I
now a
saw
thing.
and then I saw another one being shared that the Flash movie will lend a lot of clarity for the DCU's future. And it's like
Well,
these
you
things, like,
obviously.
yeah, it's just like, what are these vague little tidbits?
Here's the
Like,
thing.
where's the slate? You know what I
Nobody
mean?
nobody cares that that Batman movie set on Earth 2 because no
Not
one
at
knows what
all.
Earth 2
We
is. And it's
everybody
not going to be
wants
addressed
it
in the film.
everybody wants it to be standalone anyways. We're like,
Yeah.
give Matt Reeves a Batman trilogy. Like,
Yeah.
let
And
that thing take off and be its own thing. And
I think that's probably what's going to happen, you know, quote
yeah,
unquote. But like
yeah. We
this
have rumors of Michael Keaton not wanting to do the Flash movie, right, as Batman.
yeah, I heard that
And then
was
you
it was like scheduling conflict
And
though.
then
It
now there's
was
rumors that Christian Bale is being approached
oh god.
to
Oh
come
god.
do
No,
this.
no, 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 no. Bad idea. That's a
And
bad
it's just
idea.
like, holy heck.
I don't think
So
I don't think that's it. Yeah.
so to me, the Flash, it's resembling the Space Jam type of
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like
How many
we know
characters can we
what you
squeeze
guys
into
like.
this?
It's like
Yeah.
we know what you guys like. We know what characters you like. We know how to represent these characters to where you're not gonna create a crazy online war, but it's just not. It just doesn't seem right now. You know what I mean? It's just
So
something's off.
so um like come back to that something you said earlier, like this, like where's the slate, right? Like
Yeah.
why do we not have like
People are making their
you
own
know,
slates
how
with,
many
with
times
information from random,
right?
like, oh, this
We don't
movie's
want
coming
that.
out in
That's bad.
2022 now.
Yeah. That's
And like,
we
oh,
don't need fans
and
doing that.
Zatanna's on there now because there was some
Oh
fandom type
yeah.
thing happen where a logo came up and then they said, yeah, it's a full blown movie. It's not a TV show. So it's like,
But like
okay.
but again, we don't know any details about any of this stuff. So it's like
Mm.
when Marvel comes out and they're like, here's the movies for the next 3 years,
Yeah.
right? And
They
it's going
usually
to
stick
be
to it. It rarely changes.
well,
to
or they'll put out like
They
a
tweak
red
it.
herring on purpose, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
this is Captain America versus the Snake People, and it turns out it's like it's Civil War, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, but
And
I think from that slate when they changed Civil War, which is his best, I think there's like fake or fan like cell phone footage of
Right.
that sequence. I think I pulled it up at your place one time just to watch
Mhm,
it. It's just so well
mhm.
done. But I think from that particular slate, it like stayed true.
So
Apart from the Inhumans, no, what did they call
Eternals,
it? Eternals, yeah.
yeah. So
Which is
again,
by the way is Marvel's New Gods
well, yeah. I don't.
in
I
a
don't.
way, right?
In a way, I don't know. I don't like. I don't think what the Eternals is as a movie is going for what New Gods was going for as a film. Like I think they were. I think
Well,
they're
we have
very
no idea.
different.
We don't know that.
But we don't. We don't. It's hard. That's my
that's
hunch. But
yeah,
yeah.
but
So, is it possible that they're just waiting to reveal the slate until after Flashpoint, and they can say, "Hey, we've now reset everything. Now we can tell you our slate."
yeah, but
That
that's
might be what's
too
happening.
far away. That's
I don't. When is Flashpoint exactly?
I think
When-
I believe they may have just started filming, or because I think there was a picture of the director Andy Muschietti, like outside of the Warner Brothers like studio lot, like where they're going to be filming mostly, like inside the campus or whatever.
right.
But yeah, I don't think there's any like super official type stuff because
I
everything's still
just-
changing. We know, like,
Googled it.
yeah, like there's apparently there could be multiple scripts, right? With the whole Ray Fisher, he's taken out, and then now there's another script that's involved. Now they have Michael Keaton, or is it Christian Bale? Yeah, Ben Affleck, who we know who's signed on
I
to
just
come back.
really want it to be Michael Keaton, like more than anything.
Yeah, because he
I would rather
represents
that be.
kind of like that first.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Adam West, right? You know, in terms of live action,
Sure.
iconic
Also
Batman,
passed
but
away. Yeah.
yeah, but with Michael Keaton, you know, why not, right?
I mean, it just there's a distinct look and vibe to that I think fits what they're doing way more than what the Christian Bale version of Batman. It's like, hey, Christian Bale's Batman is fine. Like I think it's actually some of those movies have actually aged kind of more poorly than we live with like.
Okay.
And like I don't know, specifically the third one, obviously, right? We think about the third film, and like it just doesn't really.
Well, we
hold
were
up,
fans. I don't think we were fans from the beginning. I think.
No, not really. But I mean, I don't know. The first,
fell
I mean, I
asleep
guess
during them.
Batman Begins, and Dark Knight are pretty good. I'll take
they're
that
great.
back. Those are very good. Those are good.
No,
movies.
yeah,
but
for
like
sure. It's just the third one.
his iteration, or his kind of like take on Batman,
Yeah,
I
but
don't think has
it's
aged as
gonna be
well.
fun. It's gonna celebrate the Dark Knight
Shut
trilogy.
up! No, I
He's
don't
gonna
want.
do his gravelly voice and disappear, and you're
Right,
gonna
right,
laugh and eat your
right,
popcorn,
right, right, right,
and
right, right,
you're gonna get
right,
what you want.
right. Well,
You
hey,
want
here's the
that.
thing: November 4th, 2022 is apparently the release date for
Oh,
Flash,
great. Can't
Flashpoint.
wait.
So we're about
Can't wait, have to.
we're about a year and a bit away, year and 6 months ish.
Who knows what's gonna happen with that? Jesus.
If they even meet that date, I mean, who knows at this point. The other speaking
But
of
yeah,
dates,
we also know that Green Lantern Corps is gonna be
oh,
filming soon
when
for
is that?
HBO.
Is that right? Green
But
Lantern.
they don't talk about it anymore, right? They
Yeah,
just
I
say
don't.
at one point, and then you just hear leaks or rumors of when they're gonna start filming. But then I heard recently that the movie is back on, but like because we didn't know if the movie and the TV show
Mhm.
would connect, but I think it's probably clear that they want to in some capacity, along the multiverse type like scenario they put themselves in. But
Yeah.
now that's not what they're doing. Apparently, like who knows? It's a
it's,
mess.
it's a mess. And then speaking of dates, Black Adam's release date is now July 29th,
Oh
2022.
yeah.
So
Well,
that's been moved.
The Rock's great because he communicates with his fans.
What a novel
Even though
concept.
even though he's been communicating about Black Adam for the last 14 years,
You're right. Hey man, it's finally happening.
it's
All right.
he took a picture of the actual
Yeah.
action thing.
The
What are they called?
whatever goes snap before you
Yeah,
take a
yeah.
when you
It's
shoot
got the
stuff.
logo on it. It's got the
Yeah.
director's name. So they're
Um,
doing it.
the only news I care about The Rock right now is CFL news, and
Oh,
so that's
why,
the only
is
thing
he
that's
buying
getting me
the
into.
CFL?
He owns. You knew that he owned the XFL already, right?
Yeah, I knew he owned it. He
Yeah.
recently purchased that with
Right.
his agent,
Ex-wife.
former ex-wife, right?
Yeah. So they're in talks. The XFL and the CFL are in talks about a potential merger. So that's really all that I've been paying attention to, rock wise, lately. That and reminding people that there's a show called Young Rock that no one knows exists. That is like kind of like a Everybody Hates Chris type show about the Rock's young life. I was surprised to find out that existed too. So we're all on the same page there. Okay. The new Mortal Kombat movie has a new theme song, as you would expect, and it's called Techno Syndrome 2021. Not a great name. And it's by Benjamin Walfish. I don't know how to say his name. Anyway, it's been released on YouTube and everywhere. You can now hear it. Have you listened to this new theme song, Jeremy?
I think I listened to a little clip of it, and I was kind of fast forwarding through, and then it had like a nice
It had the Mortal Kombat.
picture.
Yeah.
It had a nice picture and like
Yeah.
lights and stuff. The ice and the fire. But
Right.
and then I think I saw your tweet and how you weren't feeling it, and I guess I'm kind of on
Yeah.
the same page. I mean, it's got some similarities, but it just feels
It's
it's
super
different.
generic. It's just
Yeah.
very it just feels like generic techno music, and
Yeah.
that's not at all what the original theme is. Like, it is techno, but it doesn't feel generic, and neither does, by the way, the Reptile theme from Skrillex.
builds, right? And it's just like hype. So I don't know. I maybe I'll have to listen to it like in louder speakers or something like that. But
No, you don't have to.
um,
It's not that good. It's fine. It's fine. It gets the job done, and it uses the sound effects, like the
Right.
yelling Mortal Kombat and like having these different like blurbs out of the game and stuff.
Not as
It
hype.
gets that done, but it just doesn't it's just nothing exciting for me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like they
Like-
could have used the actors saying their character names. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
like they did that in the trailer, which is like a thing, part of the video game, and like
Right.
in the song at some point, right? They say the names.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done something like that, but Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, the thing is, I feel bad for this Benjamin guy because like it's a pretty tough thing to have to do is follow up the Mortal Kombat theme song, right? And then not only that, also have to follow in the shoes of Skrillex, who actually had an amazing new theme song that was associated with. And I guess it was technically Reptile's theme, but
yeah,
like,
it
people
wasn't
just
necessarily a
associated
theme
it.
song. Yeah. Well,
But
I
people
think
associated it with
well
it.
that was Mortal Kombat 9, right? Which
Yeah.
I think they even did a modernization for the Techno Syndrome song, or that might have been 11 for the trailer. Yeah, I think it was
Right.
11 or the intro stories.
Yeah,
trailer.
they just
It
modernized
was
it a little
cool.
bit.
Yeah, it was cool. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it's the
And the movie's
it's like
runtime is pretty low. Apparently, I think it's like an hour
Well,
and just under 2 hours.
I was
something
talking. I was talking to Dan the other day. I was like, I think that the hour and a half like runtime is like the perfect movie length, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like, I'm coming around to this idea that this like get in, tell your story, be efficient, don't waste my
That
time.
sounds terrible.
You don't like that?
That sounds brutal. I hate
No,
that
I
take.
mean, I don't know. I mean,
The way you're framing it,
it
it just
depends on
I'm
the
disgusted by it.
movie. I mean, right? I mean, I don't know if we need a 4-hour Mortal Kombat movie. Is what you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like
no one's
so.
saying 4 hours. It's just you need to me, you need a specific amount of time to really get lost in it. Like I'm not looking to be uh, like you said, like efficient with with
Well, okay, like
with
maybe
how things
efficient's
are
a bad
done.
word.
Because
I
at
don't
that
know.
point, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, are you kidding me?
I
So
don't.
I hate that take. I'm just gonna be honest. But
Okay, all right, fair enough.
fair,
But
fair,
like,
fair.
I just think that our number one critique often is that this movie was too long. We say this all the time,
Yeah.
and like, there is something to be said about being able to tell a story without it dragging. And like, I'm not saying it has to be like it's short and it feels short. It can
Mm.
feel like satisfying. I just think like if you can make it feel satisfying in that hour and a half, hour 45 like length, I think you're telling like you're doing good. And
Yeah, I'm just
ultimately,
all about it just being satisfying no matter what.
I
Once you're
guess I
once you're done
suppose,
with
yeah.
it,
Like it maybe
essentially.
like necessarily, yeah. If it feels satisfying, it doesn't matter how long it is ultimately.
Because I do
But
like,
yeah.
well, like I do like movies that defy expectations and kind of throw you for a loop here and there. And like when you hear of a
Hmm.
runtime, right? You hear a runtime like, oh, it's like 2 hours and 20. It's like you're in for some shit towards the back end of that movie, right?
Well, yeah, because
For
sometimes you'll be
me,
like, "Is the movie over? Oh no,
yeah.
there's another
But for me,
40
with
minutes
this
left."
with Mortal Kombat and like
Right.
knowing like there's so many characters at play and seeing the runtimes, like I don't know if there's going to be much that I'm not expecting
Hmm.
to where they're gonna build and showcase that towards the end of this. Like, I just feel like it's gonna be a movie. I've kind of changed my tune on it. Like, it's gonna be a movie that's gonna be really fan servicey and really represent the
Right.
video game very well. But I don't know if it's gonna do anything on top of that. And I think it's gonna get a lot of critique for that. Like, I don't think it. I don't
I
necessarily
don't
think it
know.
should,
I
but
feel
I
like
think
that's
that's
what the
what's
movie
gonna
should
happen.
be doing. I think the first movie
Yeah,
in a relaunch like this should try to
right.
like keep it without like don't try to
Just keep it fun,
overcomplicate it.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I don't know.
I
That's
just
how I
know
think.
the reaction that you're gonna get from that, right? In terms of the
Well, I mean, it
critics.
depends on who you're talking to. Like if you're
Yeah.
talking to like
Well,
casual
we've had that
fan,
with Godzilla versus Kong to a certain degree as well, right? It's like GameSpot, it just looks so clickbaity, right? They try to
yeah.
say mindless monster movie with no blah 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 blah, and it's
Have you
like,
seen Godzilla versus Kong by the way?
no, I haven't.
No. Okay, so I have. I watched it, and it is basically that. To be fair, so
Yeah. But
like
that's the thing. It's like
yeah,
what it goes to. What were you expecting, right? So it's like
right,
that's
exactly.
the
That's
whole
true.
thing, right? That's where the two sides kind of clash every time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, expectations. I think we talk about this on a semi-regular basis. Like expectations play a major role in how much you enjoy something.
Mhm.
And I think we discounted that for a long time. Like if you
Yeah.
go into a movie and you don't think it's shit, if you don't think it's gonna be anything, you don't really know, you're probably gonna come out fairly entertained because most movies are pretty good. Like they're like functional. They tell the story. There's usually some sort of charismatic acting. And like it's rare that you're gonna leave a movie and be like, "Fuck, that was garbage." Like maybe
Eh,
episode 9, Star Wars episode 9. I don't
no,
know.
that's
If
rare.
something comes to mind, but like I don't, like I just feel like I'm often very entertained by a movie. Like if like regard even if I know it's a bad movie, I'm like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
like it's still a cinematic experience that I'm enjoying, right? Often.
I'm
Um,
happy that's the case.
but like so if I go into Mortal Kombat and I'm kind of going into this movie, I'm trying to be like very open minded about like what
That's
this movie is
good.
actually
Yeah,
going to
like
be because I
I've
don't
said in the
think
I've said in the past that like it could go both ways. It could take the lore super seriously and try to
right.
do new things with it or really explore it, or just be very surface level and give us the all the check marks. And I and it'd be cheesy, and I'd probably be fine with both. I'd
Hmm.
probably want the former,
Right.
but I think it's leaning to more towards the campiness and just kind of just extrapolating the games, its look and its lore to its surface level, and we're going to enjoy it, especially with the rated R and the fatalities that we're going to be seeing. So,
Right.
still looking forward to it.
Um. Yeah. I mean,
Push back a week or two, so you have to
yeah. It's not
re up
coming
that
out
HBO
April.
Max subscription.
That's right. April 23rd now, 2021. Yeah, I like how Jeremy. That's so funny the way you put it because it's like, oh yeah, it was pushed back 2 weeks, to give room, give breathing room
Yeah,
for Godzilla versus Kong. No, guys, everyone watched that in the first week. No one gives a shit
yeah,
anymore. Let's just get this next movie
yeah.
out. I do
But
worry
everybody
about.
did. Number one app in the App Store. So Godzilla vs
Hey
Kong
man,
breaking records.
Godzilla versus Kong is a functional movie that I wish I could have saw in theaters.
Yeah.
It's not a movie that I'm like happy I got to see on my TV, because it really does need to be seen in theaters. Like, these larger than life characters should be seen in a movie theater. That's just
'Cause
my.
they get to be represented that way.
That's just how they should be seen.
Yeah.
And so, like, sure, it's cool. It's just like a novelty to watch it at home. That for me, like, I watched it. I turned up the music really loud, and I turned the lights all the way down. And it was fun, but it was just very, like, I forgot about it like the next day, and like it's just whatever. And I might have done that anyway, but at least the experience itself would have been more like like bigger. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I worry about Mortal Kombat, just sticking on that for one more second before we move on, because I think they're been put in a position where they might be set up to fail. Because if this movie comes out, it's coming out direct to HBO Max, they're going to have their viewership numbers or wherever they're going to be, but we'll never know what those are, and we'll never get a box office return number. We're never going to know if this movie that was like, I don't know how much it cost to make. I don't think it was that expensive.
I think we'll get analytics on all these day and date movies.
Man, I don't like
ones.
They've did HBO release them, or are we getting third party ones? Because that's where we've seen a lot of third party stuff, and they're not super reliable.
I know that. I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers has said that it's done well or whatever.
We'll just take their word for it. Yeah, I guess So, and if we don't hear something that's like that about Mortal Kombat, we can maybe assume that it did poorly, and we might not get a second one. Because I think, Jeremy, if you're talking about I want something that's light and fun, but I really would prefer something that's more like meaty, you might get that more meaty thing in the second and third movie if it's actually done and it actually happens. But if they never even gets to that, we might never even see it. So.
Yeah, I just think it's a movie world that's just primed to get sequels. Like, it's in terms of its character dynamics, and just the sheer amount of them that they can pull from.
Right.
But yeah, it's a weird game. Like, looking at like what do numbers mean? Like, when do they make sense and when do they not? And if they're low, then we won't tell you, so we won't do it. And if they're high, but we don't want to do that thing, then we're not going to show
right, like, just front release the numbers.
You know what I mean? With the Zack Snyder stuff. So it's just headache inducing when you really when you want to know what the deal is.
Right, because as a fan base, you want to be able to have the knowledge to say, well, hey, we did show up to that thing. It did perform well, and we want it. Now we want more of that thing, and whether you get, and we talked about this
extreme in the Snyder Cut type stuff.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, like, we don't even know what the Snyder Cut stuff, because there's a lot of news that, hey, not a lot of people finished the movie. Maybe a lot of people started but never finished or whatever.
But then it's like the HBO Max crashes in multiple places on the planet during the release of the movie. Right. It's like you get the tweets trending worldwide. It's just the international viewership of the Snyder Cut, from what I've seen, looks like it could be pretty massive. But again,
we don't know.
That game where they don't care, because they've made their agenda clear as to what they want to do moving forward. Well, and if they were to showcase that, if it were good, then it would open that huge kind of conversation.
It would just be like, okay, now you have to do it, quote unquote, because it was successful. And so, and this comes back to that conversation before we had a couple weeks ago. I mean, not a couple months ago now, when we were talking about that in that agree disagree. Like, hey, the way we find out about whether or not TV shows and movies are successful is going away, and now we're just gonna get this like corporate bullshit from all of them, and we're never gonna know what's actually successful, and it's all gonna be algorithmic garbage, and like that's the most concerning to me. So. Well, I mean, that's the most negative point of view, but we'll see.
Then your app's going to go on sleep mode and then run trailers, and then Jessica Jones is going to pop up, and then you're going to click on it.
Exactly. And maybe they wanted me to watch Jessica Jones. I don't even know. Maybe I'm just a pawn in their game.
They heard you talk about Jessica Jones before.
Maybe. Stargate Pioneer still in the chat. He's a little bit further behind. I guess keep saying he. They are still a little bit further behind. Said they've never seen Knives Out. I'm just going to jump in here and just quickly say, if you haven't seen Knives Out, it's available to stream on Amazon Prime right now. Go watch it. It's very fun. It's playing behind me. Super fun. again, another one of those movies that's like pretty tight in terms of its like runtime. It's not really asking a lot of you in terms of your time. And it's just like the performances are great. The cast is amazing. The director and writer, obviously, I'm a big fan of, but worth it, I would say, if you haven't seen it. Okay, let's move on. Paramount has made some. Speaking of, we've been to lots of. These are always the stories, but Paramount has made some major changes to their release schedule, their slate, as it were. Snake Eyes. By the way, Jeremy, did you know that there was a movie called Snake Eyes coming out?
Is that a remake of the original?
No, this is a spinoff of G.I. Joe.
Oh, okay.
It's a G.I. Joe spinoff that's coming out July 23rd, 2021.
I believe it's, the original Snake Eyes is a what's it? Nicolas Cage movie.
It's not that. It's not that. Although I wish it was that. It's
which
not.
I'm gonna use that for my film club at some point.
Oh, are you okay? All right. We're coming up on the 10th anniversary of Drive, so I'm going to be using that for my film club at some point, I think. Jackass, October 22nd, 2021. The one that's most important to me, Top Gun Maverick, has been moved again. Now is coming out November 19th, 2021. November of this year is very, very busy right now. There's a lot of movies in November currently. I think there's a lot of hope that people will be back in theaters by November, like in like large groups. We don't know if that's going to be true.
A lot of random hope.
But like, it's just, there's all these big movies that are just not coming out, and which is why it is really refreshing having something like Godzilla vs. Kong. It's just like, hey, here's a big, expensive movie that you can watch. There just hasn't been that because they just keep being pushed away.
For me, that's Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
in this whole thing.
Yeah,
for me personally. But
Top Gun Maverick, another movie that I would love to see, and like it has to be seen in theaters, in my opinion. Like this, it's a. I don't know if it's shot in IMAX or anything like that, but these shots from the trailer of them in these like jets are intense on my television, and I would just I just want to be immersed in this world of fighter jets for an hour and 45 minutes and no longer. Mission Impossible 7, May 27th, 2022. Dungeons and Dragons, March 3rd, 2023. Mission Impossible 8, July 7th, 2023. And then Star Trek.
Shooting back to back.
What? Not anymore. They were, and now they're not anymore. So,
but it's only a year apart. What do you mean?
My understanding is that they were being shot back to back. They're actually right now. Mission Impossible 7 is still in production, which is probably part of the reason it's getting delayed.
Well, I mean, there's going to be a small break then. Okay, we can say here, like
maybe
if they want to stick these landings, but.
Which they apparently have they don't really care about sticking to them because they've moved them a million times, so it doesn't really matter.
Fun new movies.
me too, Jeremy. Me too. And then whatever the next Star Trek movie is, maybe it's that Tarantino one, or maybe it's something else. That's coming in 2023 at some point. Who knows? Which I feels like that's a long way away. Like I don't know why we're waiting this long to get Star Trek back on the big screen. Like, let's go.
Dude, this is gonna be a long wait here.
Yeah,
okay?
I mean it's like 2023. It's 2023 now. It's probably likely actually going to come out 2024, 2025.
You got your Phase 4 Marvel right now. You know, just eat that up, okay?
No, no, I'll enjoy it. No, I'll enjoy it. Okay, and then Christopher Daniel Barnes reportedly. Okay, this is actually interesting. Okay, so no one knows the name Christopher Daniel Barnes. I certainly don't off the top of my head, but he will be reprising his role as Spider-Man, Peter Parker. He was the voice of Spider-Man in the '90s cartoon of Spider-Man.
The second version or the first version?
The one that we're familiar with, the one that we liked.
Oh, okay.
Like the first '90s cartoon.
Didn't they change him over too at some point? In that
I don't recall. I just I think when people think of the voice of the '90s cartoon, this is the guy we're talking about.
Okay, yeah, all right. That's cool.
And so that is really cool. I think about that show semi-regularly because I think that his version of that voice is like really old. Like it's like a full-grown man version of Spider-Man in that show, and it's fine. Like it totally works. But
it doesn't necessarily sound old, but it sounds manly. You could say.
Right? Yeah. But also the way they depict.
He always had a level of concern and worry, but
yeah.
But it's just it's a strong voice, so it's good. But we grew up with it, so.
Right. She's in trouble. I need to go. Like so. I'm excited for this and this is a pure like Member Berries nostalgia play, but Into the Spider-Verse 2 is already kind of that anyway, so I'm fine with it. And that first one movie is amazing.
And
So
then Spider-Man, No Way Home is going to be a live action Into the Spider-Verse coming.
yeah, I guess
Yeah,
so, because again, no one has good original ideas anymore. So
we're
they're
just
like,
dipping
look,
into that well.
well, it's the thing is, like, it's one thing to go back to the '90s and say, hey, you know, these kids liked that voice actor. We'll get him in. We'll get that Spider-Man into
They're
our
30
into our
now.
world.
They like them.
Sure, right? Like that makes sense to me, right? Like it's a little cheap and it works on me and I'm okay with it. But this idea that, like, hey, Spider-Verse was popular 3 years ago. Let's make that but live action. It's like, no, we just did that movie. We don't need to do it again. We just did it. Like, just 2 minutes ago, and it won an Oscar. So why, like, it's this idea that you have to commit to these, like, definite wins, right? Like, well, that was popular,
Yeah.
so we could do it in live action. It's gonna work. It's like,
So
no,
if
you can make better movies.
If you were Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield,
Right.
what would you do? Because
Well, I mean,
clearly,
if you're Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield,
those
you're getting paid.
individuals
Getting paid.
have
You're
signed
gonna
on
do
to
it.
do this, to reprise their role in the legacy of
But
Spider-Man.
Jeremy, I'm never gonna like blame the actor for taking a paycheck. Like, it's like, hey, the studio came to them and said, hey, we want you to reprise your Spider-Man role in this crazy
Right.
Spider-Man movie that we're doing.
But if
with
you
Tom
had it your
Holland."
way as a fan, you would want them to say no.
I mean, I don't know if that's how it works. I would want the
What is-
studio
what-
to
what's
have a
the-
better
what's the
idea. Is
negative
what I want.
take- Why? What's so negative about it? Isn't it a celebration of the character itself and rewarding all fan bases to a certain degree and
It
and
may,
having
and
this fun
sure,
adventure?
it just
It feels disingenuous. a
It
little
does.
bit.
I think it does, because I think maybe that's not, and maybe that's just for me and, like, for us who pay attention to this stuff. Like, we're aware of the news. We know these movies are coming. You know, someone out there somewhere is going to go into a new Spider-Man movie, and they're going to go in and they're going to be blown away that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are there. Like, it's going to be like the coolest shit for them, and that's great.
Because the multiverse is the hot thing right now. It's
Yeah.
the go-to element.
But
within your ownership of characters, because it just brings everybody, it demands the attention. It's like the Avengers movies, right?
right.
It's like everyone just shows up in droves, like they need to see what's going on here. So this is just such a massive trick that is so popular right now, and they're going to capitalize on it. And yeah, who knows where that leads? But
So Stargate Pioneer mentions, if you need to see a movie in the theater, you don't have a big enough TV screen or good enough sound system at home.
great.
I have
Now
a very
Blake can
large
tell us about his TV.
I have a
how
very large
paid
television
for
and a
it.
very good sound system. It's there is a distinct difference between my 65-inch OLED and a 100-foot screen. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's fair to make create a distinction there. But they also mention here that they were able to watch the entire Snyder Cut at 2.5 times speed, which not a. I'm gonna put a limit in there and say I don't think anyone should watch anything at the speed that's not the original creator's intent. That's just I just think it doesn't make any sense. But to each their own, I suppose. That's how I would prefer to do it. Here's where were we? We were talking about Spider-Verse. I know you were mentioning, like, hey, the multiverse is the thing. This just occurs to me when you're saying that. I think it's a mirage. I don't think that the multiverse, the concept of a multiverse, which is interesting to us as comic book fans, right, is actually interesting to the everyday viewer. I think what's actually interesting to them is seeing their favorite versions of these characters together. So
100%.
they don't really give a shit
It's
about
Fortnite.
Yeah, it's just exactly. It's just all these wacky characters together. It doesn't have to matter if it makes sense. Obviously, there's the Stanley Kubrick quote, which is that a movie doesn't have to make sense; it just has to be entertaining. Fair enough.
Within the comic book world, it's the only place to where these characters exist in so many different ways and takes and versions. So
Yeah,
it
it just feels
lends to the
cheap to
comic
me.
book. It lends to the comic book feel, and it just seems so unprecedented and so unrealistic in the world that we grew up in Hollywood, and knowing what actors do in their contracts, to revisit these things to where we have a different attachment rate to it, and because we know the business side of it, it will just immediately feel disingenuous. So I had that feeling too when this was all announced. Like, is this a trilogy ending? Tom Holland Spider-Man kind of trilogy when we look back. Like,
I
not
don't know.
really.
Yeah.
It just seems like this a big plot point in the grand scheme of things,
It just
and
seems
it'll
like,
be
hey,
super
let's get
fun.
butts. Yeah, let's get butt in
Yeah,
the seats. This has nothing to do with how good Tom Holland is as Spider-Man, which he's great as Spider-Man. I think
yeah.
he's, for me, my favorite Spider-Man, like live action Spider-Man. But he hasn't gotten the right scripts, the right stories to tell yet. And this isn't. I don't think this is it. Is my. I don't know. And
Yeah,
coming
I
back
said
to
that
what
initially too.
Stargate Pioneer, by the way, thank you for correcting me. He is a guy, so that helps me. He says earlier, like, I'm never going to complain about, too much, sci-fi and all this kind of stuff. And it does sound like I'm being a bit curmudgeon-y. I mean, like,
Usually.
more multiverse stuff. But again, all I'm just saying is I want it to be good. Because you're right, it is pretty crazy that we be even getting a Spider-Man movie with 3 Spider-Man in it. That is nuts. Agreed, 100%.
And there's rumors that J.K. Simmons will be both versions of
Oh,
his J.
that see
Jonah.
now
That
now
makes more
Jeremy,
sense.
you got me there because it's the same guy. Because it's this,
Yeah.
and he's J.K. Simmons. Obviously, he's great.
So it's that Deadpool type, breaking
Yeah.
the fourth wall.
Yeah.
That's really gonna sink its hooks into the audience, I think.
I don't know.
With
Yeah,
tidbits like that.
yeah.
But and then DC, right, with Michael Keaton or whatever is going to be
Yeah.
happening. there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't know. It's all happening, and because it's all happening at the same time, and it's coming off of Into the Spider-Verse winning an Oscar. It just feels like, again, the studios just don't know how to have any original
that
ideas.
works. Let's do that.
Yeah, that's what it feels like all the time now. Like, what's a new idea? Like, that Knives Out was a new. I mean, it was new in the sense that those characters hadn't existed before. But I mean, a murder mystery is nothing new, but it's new enough. This just feels like it's very formulaic, I suppose. Okay, so let's move on. I want to quickly mention, just because we've been talking about Brendan Fraser a lot, and we just he was a bankable superstar. He's
He
awesome.
just started trending on Twitter the next day when we were talking about him.
Right? Yeah, I think we can agree that's because of us, or maybe it's because of this GQ article, which is actually pretty depressing. Like, Brendan Fraser's film career was apparently sabotaged after the actor was reportedly sexually assaulted by a Golden Globes bigwig. The Hollywood Foreign Press didn't deny the assault. They instead claimed it was meant as a joke. In their own words, they said, "Oh, don't worry, it's a joke." What a fucking So here's the thing. I lost a lot of respect for the Golden Globes when I learned more about them earlier this year, or late last year, I guess. I every ounce of respect I had for the Golden Globes and the HFPA is gone. I have none left
because of that specific scenario.
Because of I mean, this is just another. Just I guess the straw that broke the camel's back here, because this is an actor whose career is completely thrown off because of this sexual assault stuff that was going on
and it was
behind the scenes and denied and covered up. And now not even that. Not only are they, yeah, and it's like, what the fuck? That sucks.
That's
that really fucking sucks. And
the nature of Hollywood, and to a certain degree that we're not really in tune with.
Yeah.
But is coming out in certain aspects every now and then now.
It's really gross. Yeah,
it's terrible.
Yeah. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I just think that the HFPA is completely irrelevant, I think, in my opinion, in the modern Hollywood landscape. And I think they should just go away and disappear and never come back, is my opinion.
You're canceling them.
So, I'm canceling HFPA, and that's right. Okay. Quick agree or disagree segment. Agree or disagree. As the foundations of the movie industry shift under our feet, that's a line I borrowed and I used earlier in my own in our own conversation, and move toward an in-home view and more toward in-home viewing. Studios are trying to understand the best way to monetize it, which is gross. One possible way would be to have a pay-per-viewer model. So not pay-per-view, but pay-per-viewer, that would charge you for the amount of people watching the movie. Now, the first thing that you think is that's clearly insane. That's got to be a bad idea. I don't think anyone would agree to this. That being said, if you're watching movies by yourself a lot, it might not make a difference to you. But and I'm not saying this is even coming, but is this idea of a pay-per-viewer, is this at all is this completely persona non grata, fuck that, get this as far away from me as possible, or is this at all interesting to you as a concept?
I don't know if I'm there yet mentally, just in terms of
Mm-hmm.
how the future of streaming works, and what people want. So right now that just seems you're just nickel and diming
Mm-hmm.
more and more. Like right now, we're good enough with just one flat fee per month, which is a particular percentage of money throughout the entire year to get
Mm-hmm.
some content. So that to me, it's like you look at the music industry when it was like on iTunes when you could like it was like 99 cents a song or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like that's just not how we do things anymore. Like
Yeah.
so, how are you going to really crack down on that, and make that a thing? It's all about a household,
Mm-hmm.
and you generalize it as at least four people, right,
Yeah.
or on an average.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think this is really going to go anywhere. I just think it's a
Well, I
conversation that
mean,
businesses are having.
the first thing that people think was like, well, what if someone's just sitting next to me while I'm watching a movie? Like, are they charged for sitting there? Like, how does that, like, if they leave halfway through, do I get any money back? Like, it creates this, like, is there a camera in my room that is like
Well,
watching me? Like, what the fuck is this?
it's about like devices connected to the account and
Right.
how many devices are streaming concurrently, or in different areas or whatever, like that they could
Yeah.
somehow track to where, okay, there's more than one person watching this, you need to pay this X amount.
Right. I want,
Uh,
like, here's the thing. They're gonna find a way to get your money. Is the is it? It's either you're either gonna go pay for it in the theater, you're gonna pay for it again at because you're subscribed to every streaming service, and then they'll maybe even double dip with these kind of like the Premier Access or whatever Disney Plus is doing, and that's just really. I think you're right. Like they're just gonna have to make assumptions, and like that's gonna have to be enough. Like you can't nickel and dime me at every possible place
mhm.
to see the same shit over and over and over again because it really only takes one or two of the other services to not do that for you to be like for me to like jump over and be like later Netflix I'm a Disney Plus guy now like so I think it's a bad idea generally. I just wanted to bring it up as like a be aware that these are the things that the studios are thinking about and they're not your friend. Okay. HBO is celebrating. I'm going into TV news here, not too much of it. HBO is celebrating 10 years of Game of Thrones. This is coming from Variety. I'm going to quickly read from their report. HBO has announced the launch of the Iron Anniversary, a month-long celebration to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the series premiere of Game of Thrones. Included in the celebration is an interactive Game of Thrones spotlight page on HBO Max, which is live now, as well as a Game of Thrones Marathon. This might be the worst like combo word thing. Marathon, not good. HBO,
It's pretty good.
no, that's not. Iron Anniversary, I liked. Marathon is dumb. Anyway, they're doing it was this weekend. It actually happened already. Of all the episodes of season 1. Additionally, Warner Brothers Consumer Products is releasing a new line, including a one-of-a-kind Imperial Egg by Fabergé, a range of Meckeler beers inspired by the series, and an assortment of iron-textured Funko Pop figures. So, hey, guys, if you thought that HBO doesn't care about Game of Thrones anymore, boy, were you wrong. Basically, after our conversation on our last episode about the 10 episode or shows they have in development.
Yeah, but that shit
Now
can't come
this.
out until those
Yeah.
TV shows start popping off.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
No one's gonna see these things at the store and just immediately start buying them.
They
just
want
'cause-
those iron-textured Funko Pop figures.
Well, they need to win back a certain part of the audience
Yeah.
and the critics and do it again.
We'll see. Anyway, so this is a month-long thing. The Game of Thrones spotlight page on Warner Media will feature a broad introduction to the world and characters for new viewers, as well as spoiler-laden curations featuring Easter eggs for diehard fans. Also, subscribers will be able to stream over 150 videos of cast interviews, behind-the-scenes extras, clips, and trailers. Now, this is where you got me interested, because the one thing that I think the streaming services have been lacking in since basically the beginning is the like bonus features. Like, where's the behind the scenes stuff? Where's the audio commentaries? Where's the interviews with the where is that shit? It's like I can go
All
buy the
on
DVD.
DVDs.
I can go buy the DVD and I can get it, but it's not on the streaming service. Like, you have the shit. Like, just let me see it. So this is cool because a whole bunch of like behind the scenes stuff. Maybe some of it's old. Maybe some of it's taken from the DVDs already. Who cares? I started collecting all the Game of Thrones Blu-rays. I got up to the 4th season, and then I stopped. So, anyway, I think that is actually interesting, worthwhile. I don't know if we never necessarily need to celebrate 10 years of Game of Thrones. Like the show just ended. Like let's not like it's not that crazy. I don't know. What do you think of this? Is this any of this enough to like get you back into Game of Thrones at all?
Hell no. What are you talking about? It's a bunch of nonsense. It's just if you liked it that much, you have the opportunity to kind of get back in there and soak up some more episodes and do
Right.
whatever. But
Yeah.
like we talked about, we got to see what their new content in this world is like, and if it's
Jeremy, we
worth
do know what it's like. We saw the Space Jam trailer. They're
it.
heavily featured there.
All right.
And hey, and if you were worried that George R. R. Martin was too busy and he couldn't finish his book, I know Dan's not here to be able to talk about this, but there's also a live
Finish his
stage.
book.
He's working on a live stage performance of Game of Thrones for Broadway. So it's my understanding it's not actually going to be a musical. It's not going to be a musical.
Just finish Winds of Winter already.
Well, that's what everyone says. That's what everyone says. But I
I
don't.
don't know if that's what that one's called.
I think you're right.
I think
you're right
wrong
about that.
there, actually.
I think you're right about it.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're right about it. Yeah. Anyway, so this stage performance, basically it's just a play. We'll just call it a play because that's what it is. It will be in Broadway in London and I guess also Australia for some reason, which I think is, I don't know, fair enough. Other part of the world. And it's going to be revolve around the tourney of Harrenhal, which is actually a really like compelling event in the history of Game of Thrones. And will actually include a lot of the characters that we actually know from the show. So it'll have like Ned Stark, and it'll have a lot of the characters that that we liked from season 1 will be there just younger in the stage play. So that's kind of cool. But again, finish Winds of Winter. You're absolutely you're 100% right. I'm not going to read it, but the people who do will want to. Okay. Rick and Morty season 5 will premiere this June. Young Sheldon was renewed for 3 more seasons somehow. I saw you sent that. I think you sent that to us or sent that to me on Twitter or whatever.
I said to you and Dan.
Yeah, hilarious. Like that's a good joke. You got me, Jeremy.
So
you got me. Yeah.
It's like we only got 2 seasons of Daredevil.
I thought there was 3. I thought
Maybe there's 3.
But like you're right.
Or Punisher.
young Sheldon is 3 more seasons. How has there already been?
Yeah. I'm just curious what Daniel's face looked like when he read that.
Yeah, he was just pure disappointment.
He died even more inside.
Yeah, he's just his childhood is just that much further away from his grasp now. He just can't get there. And then this is quite sad and would be sad for Dan too if he was here. We briefly talked about it the other day. American Gods, which is a show on Starz based on a Neil Gaiman book, was canceled after 3 seasons. And canceled on a cliffhanger, Jeremy. They could have canceled it after season 1 and it would have been fine. Great season of television, really cool. They got season 2, wasn't as good. Season 3, pretty great. By the end of season 3, I'm like, okay, cool. We're coming to the end game here. No 4th season. We're not going to find out what the ending is. I mean, you can go read the book, I guess, but
too bad.
Yeah, I just like there is something about these like, hey, we have a finite story that's like based on something that has a beginning, middle, and end. And you turn it into a television show and you only get 3/4 of it, feels really gross to me. Like I don't like that. I feel like at least give it like a 10 episode miniseries completion or something.
I love hearing what feels gross to you in Hollywood.
Like I get that it's a business, but like come on guys, like finish the story. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, finish the story. I guess you never saw it.
Yeah, no, I'm just relating that to other.
Hold on here. Stargate says that there's a 2nd season of Iron Fist. Wait a second. No, there isn't. I'm surprised that Iron Fist wasn't just like Netflix didn't just be like, actually, this show doesn't exist. We don't have it. I don't even know who that character is. That actor and that performance as Iron Fist in Defenders and Iron Fist season 1 is brutally bad. That Game of Thrones actor. Yeah, so like it's brutally bad. Like it's just like how do you?
That's why Kevin Feige doesn't want to bring any of these people into his thing. He had no control over the TVverse. He made it known that it was separate, even though they could connect in whatever ways they want, like Agents of Shield, and incorporate the story elements. And then now you have the multiverse type things maybe coming up, or maybe it's a mirage. But like, are they going to bring John Bernthal back as Punisher? Because why not? And
Mhm.
who gets saved, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Deadpool's
Like,
coming over, he gets saved.
can we do like pick the ones we liked and bring those into the
Yeah,
MCU?
that's
Like,
the
does
whole
that?
thing.
Yeah,
It's like, let's
yeah,
just do it already, so we
yeah,
can just move on.
yeah. We can like, yeah. Obviously, yeah. We bring Daredevil and we bring Punisher in. John Bernthal's Punisher is obviously great. You're
Bring
obviously right
Luke
about that.
Cage.
Jessica
Because
Jones, I'd be fine with too.
Iron Fist is the only one we recast. That's it.
Yeah, that's funny actually. That's pretty funny. Yeah. In fact, and we need to get obviously Kingpin has to be in there.
Oh, for
Obviously,
sure.
has to
Yeah.
be. Has to be.
He's great on Twitter too, by the way.
How
He
sick. Yeah,
supports everything
Jeremy.
DC
He
related. He's
he
great.
replied to me on Twitter that one time. Remember? What's his name
Who did?
again?
Vincent D'Onofrio?
Vincent D'Onofrio. Yeah,
Okay, sweet.
yeah. No, it was a long time ago. I got really excited about it on the show.
Oh. I
Anyway,
thought it was Jason Sudeikis you were talking about.
that also happened with Jason Sudeikis. Ted Lasso, great show. Should watch it. I'm Jeremy
Well,
this close to subscribing to Apple TV Plus. Like and
just to see him dance around in his sneakers and
or do whatever. I don't care. He can do anything he wants. He's
Yeah.
he's television royalty to me now. Okay, let's keep moving here. Production on the Obi-Wan series will start very soon. We've even seen a picture of Ewan McGregor in his with his iconic beard. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. He's like it's like very stoic. I'm fan of that look. Very good. With that news comes the official cast announcement as well. So here's the blurb from StarWars.com. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the new Disney Plus special event series starring Ewan McGregor as the iconic Jedi Master, will begin shooting in April. The story begins 10 years after the dramatic events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, where Kenobi faced his greatest defeat, the downfall and corruption of his best friend and Jedi apprentice, Anakin Skywalker. Turned evil Sith Lord Darth Vader. Obi-Wan Kenobi is directed by Deborah Chow, director of 2 critically acclaimed episodes of The Mandalorian Season 1. They released this like picture of all the cast for this.
It's beautiful rendered pictures of everyone. It's just like they know what they have.
Perfect like headshots, like
this
unbelievably
great group of actors.
It's so cool, and like to me, like this was like kind of like a bit of a surprise because some of these actors we knew. Obviously, we already knew Ewan McGregor was coming back. We already heard about Hayden Christensen coming back, which I don't think we've talked about enough. Is also insane. Like we're getting an Obi-Wan.
I'm for sure made a point to say how that's crazy and how they can kind of redo that whole thing and really pay a lot of fan service to it and just make it iconic.
People have been talking about this show and a lot and saying like this might be the best Star Wars thing we ever get, and that's a lot of pressure to put on one television series.
Well, I mean, it's essentially a sequel to the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
So, but done in this modern world where Disney owns Star Wars. And and it's a streaming thing. So, yeah, this is awesome.
This time frame allows for a series, and this is obviously like they call it a special event series. So it's a mini series, right? 1 season. And it allows for this very thoughtful telling because there's not a lot of action going on right now in this time frame, right? You got a young Luke, you've got Obi-Wan hanging out in a desert for some, watching over him. I was gonna say for some reason, we know why, but he's just hanging out in the desert, and it's just a lot of time to like really dive deep into the character. People talk about Ewan McGregor as being like kind of like maybe the best part of the prequel trilogy. Like what he brought to the character was just really fun and charismatic, and he maybe not had the best scripts, right? Like you could argue that Ewan McGregor as an actor is like maybe one of our better actors we have working today. Like he's really, really good when he wants to be, right? Or when he's given the right material. And he hasn't really gotten that like A+ material for Obi-Wan. Like it's been like kind of, it was like B+ C level like quality scripts. This gives the opportunity for Ewan McGregor to really just like put his stamp on this character and just be like, he is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, and just obviously there's a lot of now there's a lot of love for the prequel trilogies. Like people like to talk about them a lot. I certainly think about them a lot in terms of Star Wars. I really enjoy that stuff. Yeah. But like mostly Clone Wars and all that and all that stuff. But this just has the potential to be like really great, like really great. And it might not be, but it has the potential, which not everything that they do does. So here's the cast: Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Moses Ingram, Joel Edgerton. Here's what I love about this: Joel Edgerton and Bonnie. I think it's. I don't know how to say her last name.
Reprising their
VSC.
roles.
They're reprising the roles as Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. They were like not even really known actors when they were playing those characters in episode 3, but they got them back for this series. So like sweet. And then obviously someone's gonna be playing young Luke. I don't know if they obviously didn't cast that, but like I like that idea. So we have them. We have Camille Nanjiani is in this show, and that is obviously a huge surprise. Like, man, Camille, whatever you're doing right now in Hollywood, you're doing something right because you're just getting into all the best shit. So
because he got into the best shape.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's all it takes. So Camille Nanjiani, Indira Varma, Rupert Friend, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Sung Kang, and yeah, I mean he's Han in Fast and Furious, right? Justice for Han. Simone Kessel and Benny Safdie. These are great actors. Like, these are really good character actors. If they bring even like some of their like best material to this, like they really bring it, like you're just going to be in for such a treat.
Yeah, I'm just curious how this plays out with the people involved. It's like, we know how that whole, situation concluded and where it picked up in A New Hope and whatnot, but like, what happens here? Like, who knows what? Who's aware of what? Because it's all about protecting Luke and Leia, essentially, right?
Right.
So yeah, I'm just fascinated to see what sort of clash happens that we're unaware of, but that still, sets the timeline to A New Hope. So
there's a lot of like and so Stargate Pioneer series. I have no desire to see any pre-Episode 4 Star Wars film or series without Ahsoka Tano in it, since all the other stories are fully told already. Fair enough. But this is an exploration. This is a character study for me. I think this is not about like what's happening now, right? This is about understanding Obi-Wan as a character and his motivations and what's
instead of just looking at it in like a memeified type of way.
Exactly.
What we got from the prequel trilogy. You can extrapolate, deep meanings and character arcs there.
It takes some believe me, I've seen it on Twitter all the time. It takes some creative thinking to be able to like really bring a lot of artistic merit to some of the prequel stuff. Like, it's like, yeah, it's there, but it's like, man, it's not. It's like very subtext and not at all the text in some cases. But I completely agree with you. Otherwise, I mean, this is just a chance for something much deeper than that. And I don't know, like there's the line obviously that everyone thinks of when they think of Obi-Wan and Vader. It's like, hey, you know what? When you last met me, I was but the learner, right? And and now I'm the master, whatever, how it goes exactly. But
you underestimate my power.
Exactly, right. If you strike me down now, I'll become more powerful than you could ever imagine. The point being is that line of dialogue is to be like, well, they could have never met then. They can't have met before those events before, Episode 3. Everything between them, they couldn't have met. I don't think that's the case. I think they've already talked about like the greatest like rematch of all time. This is gonna be the greatest rematch. Obi-Wan versus Vader. But this time, like,
Jesus
well done,
Christ.
right?
So we're just thinking about a lightsaber battle with full-blown Vader get up and
Vader versus Obi-Wan, but it's not just like,
and we know none of them dies, but it's just gonna be this crazy battle.
Yes. But it's gonna be much more in line with like the prequel trilogy style like fights, right? And less like that like boring ass. No offense to Episode 4, great movie, but like that lightsaber duel between Vader and Obi-Wan is not exciting, I would say.
Oh
right?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So do we think that in some capacity, Darth Vader is going to have a moment that is similar to his essential like ending in Return of the Jedi, like a resolution type thing?
Oh, absolutely not.
You don't think so?
No, absolutely not. He has to double down on being Darth Vader in this series. It's the only way that works. You have Ewan McGregor, or sorry, Obi-Wan facing off Vader.
I mean the kind of twist. Like, how does this conclude? If they if they cross paths, they're aware of the other characters who've been cast here who's going to be at play.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
what happens here to where Darth Vader doesn't look here anymore?
Like why? How come they meet again and then for some reason
You know what I
doesn't
mean?
follow up on that at all?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? I guess I don't know. I don't know how that's gonna work yet. I just like it's just going to is gonna be like I just trust that it's going to work. And I'll just like, hey man, that's the writer's problem to figure out. Like I'm just gonna enjoy it for what it is. And I like, oh by the way, I also like to play the Imperial when I get these casting sheets sometimes, because it's like there's some obvious people who are clearly playing Imperial soldiers. Like Rupert Friend is nothing but definitely an Imperial officer, like 100%. And by the way, so is Indira Varma. They're definitely 100% like
Why?
Imperial officers. I just felt they have that angular face, that like very like it's just very classic Star Wars looking Imperial look to them. So that's if those two actors aren't playing Imperials, I'll eat crow. But that's my prediction here. Obviously, we know who a lot of the other characters are playing, but just generic cool bad guy. That's Rupert Friend and Indira Varma, in my opinion. We'll see. Okay, let's move on here. Lucasfilm, just quickly touching on a couple more Star Wars items. Lucasfilm has recently trademarked the term Skywalker Academy. No news on what that actually is related to, but interesting nonetheless. Maybe a future show or.
And we know. No, we were talking about that show. No, it's like some sort of reality TV show with the young.
No,
kids.
that's a different thing. That's a different thing.
Is it?
That's a different thing. Skywalker Academy is when people think of Skywalker Academy, they think of like his actual Jedi temple that was burned down by Kylo Ren, right? It's been explored in the extended universes in a lot of different ways, and we'll likely be able to spend more time in that time setting or that time frame, actually at that temple, presumably if that's what this is related to. We'll see. Disney Park. Here's what's cool though. I mean, Obi-Wan stuff is cool, but Disney Parks chairman Josh D'Amaro teased at a behind closed doors press event that they will be releasing a quote unquote realistic working retractable lightsaber to their Disney parks soon. I don't know what that means necessarily, and they didn't show any pictures, and they confirmed that it's real and it is coming, but I don't know what and everyone said who's seen it was like it looked and felt like what a lightsaber turning on looked and felt like in a movie.
It just makes no sense.
How?
What do you mean?
What is it going to be? I don't know.
No, that's what I'm saying. It makes no sense to even create this to be a thing because it's a weapon. It is.
Well, whoa. It's not working in the sense that it cuts through people. It's working in the sense that
it cuts through anything, but if it's like
Jeremy, it's just a light. It's going to be just a light, but it's not. It's
not a real lightsaber then.
It's like
you can't claim
Jeremy,
it's the real thing. It needs to.
It's real. It's realistic in the sense that it looks real. That's as close as you need to get, I think.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a glowing plasma sword. It's it's a lightsaber that looks like a real lightsaber.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see.
I mean, we will see. We will see. I don't know, but we will see. And if it is as legit as they're saying, sign me up. Like, I'll buy one. $300, no problem. Done.
It's gonna be $400.
$400, $500.
It's gonna be thousands of dollars.
You think it'll be thousands? I don't think.
Did you see the
mass producing
it? It had like crazy like mechanisms and like science
okay.
in there.
I'll pay no more than $1,000. That's I'll go no further.
It's gonna be more than that. Like the replicas that are just hard plastic that light up that people have are $1,000.
No, they're not. I've looked into this, Jeremy.
No, there's different. There are.
It depends on the type. It depends on the ones you're buying. I suppose
there's variations.
Yeah,
but the premium ones are about 1,000, maybe just under.
Okay, well, I guess fine then. $2,000. You got me. I'll do it. I don't care. Okay, so before we kind of wrap up and touch on a couple of things that we've been watching, I do want to mention this story about The Last of Us. Now, this story about The Last of Us specifically is related to the video games, but because the show is in development, and I think because this is so directly related, this decision is so directly related to the fact that the show is in development, I think it fits here, and we don't necessarily need to talk about it in the in a games episode because we don't know when we're recording one of those next, and I think this is important. So, a remake of The Last of Us, the original Last of Us game, is reportedly in the works at Sony. The report comes from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, and I'm going to read from a Polygon article here that talks about it. Sony's
just to be clear, this isn't Last of Us Part 2 remake.
Nope.
This is the Last of Us 1.
This is the first Last of Us game that had a remaster not that long ago. Sony's Visual Arts Service Group By the way, the worst name for any studio. Visual Arts Service Group. No wonder no one cares. A support-oriented studio located in San Diego. So they're support-oriented, and that's fine. They took on a PS5 remake for 2014's The Last of Us with approval. So they pitched it to Sony and said, hey, we're going to try to remake The Last of Us for the PS5. And they said, go for it. But they didn't really get any support from above, apparently. So they didn't get any additional funding to hire new people, or it's just like, okay, if you want to do it, go ahead. Then they saw it handed over to the original developer, Naughty Dog. It went back to Naughty Dog to finish the development. Visual Arts Service Group was then relegated to a support role, as well as assigned to help Naughty Dog complete the delayed Last of Us Part 2. So this is actually news from quite a while ago, from before Last of Us Part 2 came out. And so I guess presumably this remake has been in the works for a while. And that launched on PlayStation 4 last summer. As a result, the group's founder left Sony. They quit. The report describes senior leadership. This is the crazy part. Describes senior leadership at PlayStation obsessed with big hits, critically as well as commercially. For example, Bloomberg says Sony Bend pitched for a sequel to their 2019 Days Gone, but was rejected, and part of the studio was told to assist Naughty Dog on 2 other projects. One of them a new Uncharted game, which, by the way, is new. That's pretty interesting. And Sony Bend is now working on a new game of its own that's unannounced, and we don't know what that is. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about everyone looking to the past. Like this idea of PlayStation being obsessed with big hits, critically as well as commercially, is the same thing that all those movie studios are doing. And in this case, I think it's a mistake. I don't think there's any reason that we need to remake a game from 2014. I understand that that's 7 years ago now, but like a remake is a lot. So I don't know, Jeremy, what do you think of this? Because I think this is all mostly bad news, except for the Uncharted game, which obviously I'm excited about. What do you think?
Uh-oh. Sorry, yeah. A remake of the first Last of Us game.
Yeah.
So like, who's making it?
It's Naughty Dog. It's Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog is making it, I suppose. We don't know those details.
But Neil Druckmann's also kind of working with
on the show. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how does this even make sense?
It's it's obvious.
The second game be the remaster for PS5, so people can jump on that game again.
You would think so, right? You'd certainly think so.
But the remaster on PS4, you can't play. Well, no, you can play on your PS5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it does. It actually significantly increases load times and whatever the benefits are of the PS5.
Decreases, yeah. That's like, apparently it's really snappy, but like,
yeah,
okay. I mean, the point is, it is playable on the PS5 today. But it maybe doesn't look as good, but it looks pretty good.
Does.
Like,
I think it looks the best it can.
Like it looks fine for a PlayStation 3 game, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
And like, to me, this is like, it's pretty obvious what's going on here, which is that, we have a show in development that centers around the events of the first game. We want to resell that game to everybody. And that just like, there seems to be no other reason for that.
The Batman trailer, Long Halloween, came out of nowhere, right? It's like that movie is going to not necessarily tie in, but feel on the same wavelength as the Batman movie that's coming out, like the Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, movie. but these Long Halloween movies, they're not timed. Those ones aren't really timed in that way, so it doesn't feel as disingenuous. Like this, to me, just feels like a cash grab. And like, I understand that Naughty Dog may be interested in doing this after this other studio kind of started running with it, but honestly, like, kind of fuck Sony. Like, this is not what we need from them right now. You know, Microsoft is kind of eating their lunch a lot of ways. I mean, MLB, that their exclusive MLB game is coming to Xbox Game Pass next month for free, quote unquote. You know, no additional cost. And meanwhile, they're busy remaking a game from 2014 that's already playable on the PlayStation 5. That's, by the way, a critically acclaimed game that I think most people would say doesn't even need a remake. You know, like,
no.
I mean, why?
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
It points to poor leadership at PlayStation, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe would you disagree with that?
No, I just laugh because it's like it's just clear that's what is the case here, and even related to when we talk about film and stuff in studios, and it's at the end of the day, they're just people in charge. Don't
making bad decisions,
have the right answer.
Making bad choices.
Why? It's like, why are we not calling them out or like, and we get called out for that. It's like, I don't know. It's just, this is like you said, this is just a prime example of not knowing what you should be doing. But are we even the people who say you should be doing this or that? But
Well,
with this,
we're
it's
some
like,
of we're
you already
some of the
played this
largest.
game. It's a
Yeah.
massive game, and then it just looks negatively that you're chastising a fan base for Days Gone, right? Which has a
Oh yeah.
whole
Yeah.
controversial release in terms of how they released it,
Yeah.
buggy and not really their final form, and just kind of being critically panned amongst
Hmm.
in the video game
Yeah.
industry. And then you have people, outliers, and people playing the game who are like in love with that game and that franchise,
Yeah.
and would love to see it keep
Well,
going. So
and they just don't even now. They're not even given the opportunity to follow that up. Like do
yeah,
the Assassin's Creed 2 to Assassin's Creed 1 treatment.
right,
You
right,
know,
right.
like
Yeah, just
why is that?
enhance your experience from the first
Yeah,
time.
and the funny thing, and I think it's completely coincidental that happened. But I don't know, Jeremy. Did you see the trailer for that new open world zombie game? Like the days
Oh,
before
yeah,
or
it looks
whatever
like
it's
the
called.
Last of Us, like, logo, kind
It
of like
looks like the Last of Us logo. It has this like Days Gone esque naming convention.
more Walking Dead,
And
kind
but it like and it's kind of like this online persistent world. It actually looks really cool. Like I'm like that looks dope, and I want to play it. You know, like it's kind of
I
like,
got
hey, we
time,
all get
I have
on.
to go to the washroom.
Okay, well, okay, fair enough. We're wrapping up here anyway, so um, I'll just quickly touch on a couple of things that I have been watching. Like I said, I mentioned I watched Godzilla versus Kong. One thing that I found out though interesting about that movie, despite the fact that again it's fine, it's fun. There's jokes about being able to like do a cut that's only like 30 minutes long. That's just the monster fights. And honestly, like if you could find a cut like that, I would maybe just watch that because it probably makes as much sense as the actual movie plots does. I mean, it's just so inconsequential. It's all over the place. At one second you're here, next second you're in Antarctica for some reason. Um, but it doesn't matter because it's a cool Kong movie with Godzilla in it, and there's an interesting twist at the end. So, um, if you have the chance to see it in theaters, go do so. If you have a big enough screen that meets the standards of Stargate Pioneer, then watch it at home. But maybe wait is my opinion. If you can't see it in theaters now, maybe wait. Um, the one thing that I did found that it was interesting was that that Skull Island, which was the like kind of reboot Godzilla movie from a few years back, was actually planned as a direct sequel to Peter Jackson's King Kong. Which I think of that movie and I think of the movie The Game that was like a launch title for the Xbox 360, and I remember thinking at the time how cool looking that game was, and I think if you go back, it does not look good. It does not age well. But at the time, it was like the most cutting edge graphics. I thought it was like so cool. I never really played it. I only ever played it on like a kiosk at like a Best Buy or whatever. But that's like my biggest memory of that Peter Jackson's King Kong. Anyway, according to director Adam Wingard, Jackson picked him to direct the sequel. So Skull Island was supposed to be a direct sequel to that movie, and he picked Adam Wingard to direct it. But then it was handed off to Warner Brothers, and it became Kong Skull Island and what we have now. That's a story from Slash Film. I think that's just really cool. And just kind of one of those like cool what if stories in Hollywood. But ultimately, Skull Island's fun. It's good. Like what we got was fine. You could argue it was probably even better than Peter Jackson's King Kong. More interesting anyway. And then we got this like MonsterVerse now. Who knows where they go from here? I honestly don't know. Like I don't know how you go to the next level. How do you up Godzilla versus Kong? I don't know if you do. Maybe you don't even try, and you just leave it here, and that's fine.
Restore the MonsterVerse.
Yeah, I've seen that a little bit. I don't think you need to. Like I don't like whatever the Godzilla versus Kong like sequel is. Like there's not really a story there. Like I don't know what you just like. Okay, are they fighting aliens now? Like okay, sure. Even like if they do or don't, I'm not really that invested. Is basically how I come down on that. So I don't know. It's fine. Like I said, if you can see it in theaters, great. If not, maybe wait. I've also been watching, Jeremy. Now you might be interested in this. I've been watching Mighty Ducks: The Game Changers, which is like the new show on Disney Plus. Sorry, say that again.
Emilio
Estevez, exactly. Emilio Estevez reprising his role as Gordon Bombay, and it's like obviously like a new set of kids, and like it's a Disney TV show in a lot of ways, but it's like it actually feels a lot like Ted Lasso in some ways, and kind of Cobra Kai a little bit as well. And it's pretty fun. It's pretty funny. having Emilio Estevez back, he's like he's putting on this like really grouchy kind of like over it kind of like I don't even like hockey anymore type of like performance, and it's like it's very endearing, and it's like I am there for it. But what I really like is that the show is basically tackling this idea of modern sports culture and like lampooning it a little bit, saying like it doesn't make sense that you have your 10-year-old kid in hockey and that they go to 14 camps a year and you have a personal trainer for them and all this dumb shit. Like, like that is stupid. I think most people would agree, but it is kind of like necessary in the modern sports world.
And that relates to something I watched. But
oh, really? What was that?
I watched the Tiger Woods documentary on HBO.
And his dad was like always pushing him, right? Like when he was young and he had like built him a putting green in his backyard and stuff like that. Is that kind of like how that relates, or how does it kind of tie together?
Yeah, well, just basically being bred to be the best.
Yeah.
At that, like that's all you know. That's you live and breathe it. And the documentary kind of tackles at what cost, right? And
yeah,
you kind of know the dramatic scenarios in Tiger Woods' life, and it kind of wraps all those together and just really showcases a perspective that I never really had of him, and just how that's all he knew was to win and compete and to be the best ever, and how it kind of affected him negatively, even though his dad may have never intended that, but that was just what you needed to do to be the best.
Right. And so they're exploring they explore that idea here, and obviously not as in depth as that documentary would, but it's just like, hey, actually maybe these kids just want to play hockey for fun, and maybe that's really the core driving what's important here, right? So this show is kind of about, and by the way, I like this idea that they kind of flipped the roles. The Mighty Ducks are now the bad guys. They're like they're the big bad organization that takes hockey way too seriously, right? And now they've got this kind of this offshoot team with like kind of rejects who don't really know, and they're we're 3 episodes in, and they're kind of now winning over Gordon Bombay, and he's going to come eventually and coach the team probably. And it's a little self-aware, and again, it's like a little quirky. There's podcast jokes. I'm seeing a lot more podcast jokes these days in media, and whatever. But it's good. It's wholesome and fun. And if you liked the Mighty Ducks, this is a very well-made, entertaining follow-up to those movies, and well worth it. I kind of don't love that it's kind of released on a week-to-week basis. I don't know if it's really the type of show that needs a week-to-week release, but it is what it is. I enjoy it every Friday. My Fridays are now packed with, I get to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, Mighty Ducks, and Invincible, all on the same day, which is fun. I'll be honest, it is fun. And then, by the way, speaking of which, I have also been watching Invincible. Have you been watching it all, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think I watched 3 episodes.
Yeah, I think there's 5 out, 4 or 5 now. Because the first 3 came out, were like all released at the same time. Right. What's your overall thoughts on Invincible so far? I mean, I've been liking it.
Yeah, there's not much there for me right now. Like I get the shock value and kind of where the story is heading, and that end sequence, which I think you were tweeting about, is some sort of like a litmus test. If you into the series, and I don't see it as like I take offense to it. It's just I think that probably might have worked better in the comic medium, just how it was. It's potentially because it's like it's in terms of like the length, like it's almost like you get what's happening. I don't know. It just played odd for me, even though I'm not like trying to hate on it or anything.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't able to really latch on too much thereafter. Like there's a lot going on, I guess.
Yeah, there is a lot happening, and what the crazy thing about Invincible is the voice cast it makes no sense. Like I don't understand how they got all these actors. Like did they have like something on them? Like I don't get it, because like they'll cut, like Seth Rogen has a voice performance in like the second episode, and he's in it for like 4 minutes. Like how are you? Yeah, it is really, really nuts, and like it's all great. Like the voice cast is all great, but I would say it's a little distracting because you're constantly like, oh, I recognize that voice. I recognize that voice. Like literally every other scene, it's like, wow, okay. And then, but if you get further into it, Mahershala Ali appears, and it's like, oh, there's another fucking massive star. like how is this possible? So that's a minor gripe. And the one thing that's like, I don't know, Jeremy, how you might like interpret this, but I'm watching the show and I'm enjoying it. I'm like liking the show, but I'm not loving it. But I also don't. I can't see anything wrong with it. It's like almost too good, if that makes any sense. Like it's like so well made and so streamlined and so like tightly executed that it's like it's basically perfect in its execution, but I'm still not loving it for some reason. And I don't know, I can't really put my finger on why.
Is it just like too much a riff on like other characters, and
Well,
they're
maybe.
just playing with them in a weird way that it just doesn't come off as exciting to you, or it's exciting, but it's like,
Like
what else would
rote.
you do with
Like we've
them?
been there, done that, and then maybe that comes back to what we were saying before. Like, hey, there's like a lot of these going on. Like it does feel like a lot like it's The Boys. It's that
Yeah.
whatever that stupid show we talked about, Jupiter Ascending.
Super
It's
show.
it's like there's just a lot. There's just a lot of this stuff happening at the same time, and maybe it's too close together. But and you're right. I mean, like a lot of this stuff is I've kind of like seen before. But this is just really done. But it's done so well that like I can't really criticize it. Like it's just like it's each episode is like 45 to almost like to an hour long, which at first is like that seems like a lot for an animated show. But you watch it and you're like, no, it works. Like each episode feels tight and good. And I like how they each end on this kind of like interesting kind of like cut to credits and then another scene, kind of post credit scene that happens like immediately. I don't have to watch all the credits. It's just like one black screen of credits and into the next scene, which I like. But I don't know. It's weird because it sounds like I'm just looking for ways to not like it, but I'm just trying to understand why I don't love it because it is really good. It is just really well made, you know.
Right.
And then obviously I've been watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Are you caught up on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Jeremy?
I watched 2 episodes and I was just so bored. But
that is
I heard
so you
episode 4 is good.
episode 4 is very good.
And I also kind of want to shoot myself every time I see a video posted of Baron Zemo dancing. That's
really,
the
I thought that's so funny. Dan said the same thing, and I was like, that Baron Zemo gif of him dancing is, I think, hilarious. And like, I know I understand why people might be frustrated by it, but like, I'm on board.
It's just so. I don't know. It's just so annoying to me. It's like this
So
is
have you
this is
seen
what
that?
we're celebrating.
Have you
This is
seen that
what we're
episode? Then you've seen
No,
up
no,
to
no, I
episode
haven't.
3. Oh,
So
you
for
haven't seen
me, to be fair, it was taken out of context, but
right.
just the amount it was like shared and like memed upon and joked, and the songs changed, and I see it and I see it. It's like Baron Zemo. This is what this is
Yeah,
his incarnation right now, and we're all like, yeah, Marvel, this is awesome. No
to be
critique.
to be fair, Jeremy, you're right. That is out of context, and it is just like it's not really a. It happens in the show, and it's pretty quick.
It's just quick. Yeah,
it's
no,
pretty
I
quick,
get
but
it.
like
I
so
get
like
it.
it has no like negative effect on the performance for me because ultimately Daniel Bruhl is actually putting in a pretty good performance here. I think most of the performances are pretty good. That being said, Sebastian Stan is putting everybody else to shame in his performances. Like they're
Yeah.
just so much better than everybody else's. It's just not even fair.
For me, it was like excruciating watching the sequences in the beginning of the show with them. Like I just
Really,
like the therapy session was just
really,
just so hard for me to watch.
I
Yeah.
love that scene. I really liked it. And there's a scene that's not necessarily a therapy scene, but it's a really fascinating and again really great performance by Sebastian Stan in the beginning of episode 4. I'm not going to spoil it, but I just say keep an eye out for that. It's really good. I guess again, just his performance for me works. That being said,
That being said, let's go.
all this show as a whole, they talk about it as this 6-hour movie, and I read this
Oof.
interesting piece on Slash Film. It's like, hey, it's all cool and fun to put out a 6-hour movie. Like that's the thing that everyone was talking about. That was like the thing that was Netflix. Like, hey, it's just like a 6-hour movie or whatever, right? That's all fine and good if you release it all at the same time. It doesn't work when you release it on a week-to-week format. And I'm pro week-to-week format, right? We've been talking about this for a long time on the show. I love a good, make me think about it for a week, get me in, like let's keep the conversation going, right? That
Yeah.
being said, this show is overstuffed. I've used that before earlier, but it is like there's just so much happening in it, and there's so many characters, and it moves at a mile a minute. Like episode 2 I think is particularly bad for that because things are just happening, and like people are going from place to place, and it's like hard to keep up with the pace of the show. It's asking you to like keep up, but it's like how? There's too many things. and I think it evens out a little bit later, and 3 and 4 get better. But overall, I just think it's not focused enough of a story. I like being with the characters generally. Like, I just think, like, again, the performances are good enough. They're charismatic enough. But it does kind of feel like these are the things going on behind the scenes in the Captain America movies, and there's a reason we didn't see them, because they weren't as exciting as the stuff that was happening in Captain America, right? That all being said, episode 4 does culminate in a really, really, really cool moment that I think can definitely, if they stick the landing, in the next final 2 episodes, it could be really, really cool. But I don't necessarily have the faith in the show to do that yet. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. And I think I'd like to maybe sit down with you guys and unpack the show once it's all done as a whole, and maybe even look back at WandaVision, because, and in context with this, because knowing that this was the first show that they were making. Maybe
I'll set that one out, and you and Dan can do that one.
You gotta finish. You gotta finish this one, Jeremy. You gotta finish it. It's only 6 episodes or whatever.
The WandaVision one.
Oh well, no. I just meant like the whole Disney or Marvel television. What's happening right now, and just quickly say, like, my thinking on that is that WandaVision is a better show than this is, and it's because it's designed to be more of a show than this is. And we'll get into more detail on that when the show's all over, and we can all talk about spoilers and stuff. But so far, I'd give it like a B plus. I would say maybe a B. Just overall, I don't know. You sound like you're more like a C minus.
Oh, man, I just don't care for it right now. But like, I'm being honest, like, I need to watch episode 3 and 4 and give it a fair shake. But like, yeah, honestly, it was like insufferable for certain moments, which
surprising.
People like it, but it's just like the whole Sam with his family. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know.
And I think people were frustrated by the slow start of the show. It does pick up its pace a lot. Obviously, you've seen episode 2, and it does pick up, and it kind of maintains that more fast pace through the following episodes as well. It's surprising hearing that from you, though, Jeremy, because you talked about, like, we have always talked about how, Captain America: Winter Soldier is up there in our top MCU movies.
Yeah,
and it still is, and that's a really, really well executed show or movie, and it's very entertaining, and it really changed the way, like, we looked at the MCU. Like, it really shook things up. This does feel a little bit like a derivative. Like, it's trying to do a lot of the same things that Winter Soldier was doing, but not doing it as well. And that's kind of, and then that maybe is why you're kind of maybe bouncing off it and saying, like, no, like, I've seen this already done before, and it was done better. So I don't know, but I would say stick with it. That would be my advice to you, Jeremy.
Okay.
Stick with it. Okay, well, that wraps it up. We're done. Head over to patreon.com/TowerBabblecast. We'll be doing our movie club at the end of the month. That's Armageddon. Last month was Mission to Mars. Check that out, as well as all of our previous ones. Follow us on Twitter @TowerBabblecast, Facebook.com/TowerBabblecast, and you can tune into our live shows by heading over to towerbabble.ca/live whenever we go live. And subscribe, hit the bell, whatever, all that stuff that you need to do so you get notifications for when we go live. And so you can join us in the chat room, just like Stargate Pioneer did today, which was great having them in the chat. So we want to see more of that, and we would love to have you involved. So we'll be back with probably more DC stuff. Jeremy and I are going to have a conversation, sit down and really unpack some of the Snyderverse stuff, and kind of really get to the bottom of it. Hard to do that. It's still happening. So when we feel like the right time, we'll reapproach it. But there's just always new news coming out. So stay tuned for that, and we'll talk to you again very soon.